there in America's finest city. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and locally each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I got just getting started here on a Tuesday. I was just asking this question around the office. What do people do on Padre off days? I mean, seriously. What's everybody doing on Padres off days? I was running out of stuff to do last night. Well, I mean, I went and played softball, but it was just, I got home and it was just like, hey, man, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do on a Padres off day? The Padres have made themselves at this point in time must-watch television. It's appointment watch. It's appointment listen. That's how exciting it is to be a Padres fan this day and age. I mean, I've talked about what it was like to be a Padres fan before this ownership group, right? Where you didn't really have too much to. I mean, at this point in a lot of seasons, you were already thinking about the NFL draft. I mean, seriously. But it's good to have the Padres back. I guess, you know what? I guess a lot of people maybe watched the New York Yankees take on the Angels last night. That was a heck of a baseball game. Heck of a game. Aaron Judge hit a home run because it's a game in April against the Halos. It doesn't really matter that much. I can't say that I was the one that came up with that. You know who came up with that? Crumb came up with that yesterday. Something exactly that you were thinking
it's
about.
Fact.
They didn't have. I mean, you could have watched hockey. Anaheim Ducks clinched last night. Why is it so long?
Gotta get the full.
Why did they let Ben Afquack go that long?
Well,
Guy's just super happy.
Let him run, dude.
Anyway, so the Anaheim Ducks clinched last night. I did see that, but I didn't get to watch a game because they didn't play. They got the benefit of things working out for them. They play the Wild tonight. I guess I got more stuff to watch tonight, but we got the Vedder Cup. We haven't heard too much about the Vedder Cup. I mean, it was just it was the Vedder Cup last year, and then it wasn't too much about the Vedder Cup. Are they going to bring the trophy down? Are they going to do that again?
Again, it's interesting now. They made it a whole rivalry weekend. Maybe it'll come later this year, but it's like that was a 1-year gimmick that died quickly, wasn't it?
I mean, you have to play the Mariners every single year, 6 times a year now on the new schedule. You might as well make something out of it to try to get like some juices going. I've only heard about it once. Hopefully they got some like Pearl Jam playing at the ballpark. With this Vedder Cup, you have a Mariners team that come in at 8-9 on the season, tied for 3rd place in the American League West, and sitting just a game and a half behind the Texas Rangers, which is not bad considering the fact that they looked awful in their first week. Kind of similar to what the Padres did in their first week. But they've got momentum now. They swept the Astros. This is the second time in a row the Padres are dealing with a team that just swept the Astros in a series. Just like the Padres, the Mariners swept the Astros in 4 games. And last year, the Mariners dominated the Padres, winning 5 out of 6 in the inaugural official Vedder Cup, while going on to win the American League West and then reach the American League Championship Series. Padres, meanwhile, of course, started at 6-6 into this weekend, won 4 straight. They are now in 2nd place in the National League West behind the Dodgers after winning 4 straight against the Rockies, and now 5 straight games, trying to go for 6 straight tonight for Michael King against Brian Wu. Brian Wu will start tonight for the Seattle Mariners. Randy Vasquez will be on the hill on Wednesday, and on Thursday, it will be Walker Buehler for the Padres. All of these games, by the way, are night games this week. No day games this week for the San Diego Padres. So, tonight, again, Mariners will have right-hander Brian Wu. He gets the ball. He's been excellent early this season. He does have a 1.50 ERA, even though he's 0-1. He's posted quality starts in 2 of 3 outings with 17 strikeouts against just 4 walks in 18 innings. And Wu has done very well against the Padres historically. He's 3-0 with a 2.33 ERA and a 16-2 strikeout to walk ratio in 19 1/3 innings against the Pods. So a little bit of a Padre killer on the hill tonight for the Seattle Mariners. Opposing him, Padres righty Michael King. Again, as we mentioned, he's 1-1 with a 3.24 ERA. Just picked up his first quality start and win of the year, and he's got a 2.84 ERA in 19 innings against the Mariners, though he's 0-3 in those starts as a Padre. On Wednesday, it's Emerson Hancock, as mentioned before, 2-1 with a 2.04 ERA for Seattle, going against Randy Vasquez, who's 1-0 with a 1.02 ERA in his first career look at the Mariners. And then coming up on Thursday, Luis Castillo, someone that should be familiar at this point in time with the amount of times that the Padres faced them in spring training. Luis Castillo made 5 starts in spring training. 3 of them were against the Padres. He goes against Walker Buehler. Both guys have high ERAs. Both guys are still looking for their first win of the season. Offensively, keep an eye out for Seattle's Luke Raley, hot 9 for 22 recently. Julio Rodriguez, also one of the guys off to good starts this season, while the Padres are getting some power from Ramon Laureano, Xander Bogaerts, Gavin Sheets, and though Fernando Tatis Jr. is still hunting his first home run of 2026, he's hitting 320 in his last 6 games. In the bullpen, Padres closer Mason Miller's been lights out, 4 for 4 in saves, 0 earned runs, obviously, 19 strikeouts against 1 walk in 7 1/3 innings, and Seattle leans on Andres Munoz as their bullpen ace, or should I say their closer, former Padre as well. In terms of an injury update for you on the Padres are dealing with some elbow issues to Nick Pivetta. He's listed as day-to-day. We should get some information on Nick Pivetta today, I would imagine, with the media being there and the Padres being back at the ballpark. Jeremiah Estrada's on the injured list as that happened over the weekend, and Seattle is going to be without Bryce Miller, who has an oblique injury for now. The Vedder Cup series maybe brings a little extra juice this week. Both clubs are fighting for early division positioning. I would expect some tight games this week and some big at-bats between the Padres and the Mariners. Both teams playing really good baseball right now going into this series. Last night, again, as I mentioned, what do you do when the Padres don't play? I mean, this is how much this team has meant to this city. Last night for me, I mean, I played 3 softball games, which was fun. I had a 2-hour break in between, so it was just kind of like monitoring certain situations like the Angels game. We had on my softball team, I got an Angels fan and a Yankees fan, and they were every time we'd come in to hit, they would be watching on the phone and then talking smack to each other, which I thought was very interesting in a game in April. So that's what I did. Frank, did you do with no Padres game? Did you do what Juan did and just watch the Mets?
No, actually, I got home late and then worked and then tried to hang out with some friends and online and fell asleep. That was what I did.
You know, that's what you got to do when there's no Padre game. It's so boring. Life is so boring without the Padres. You just completely fall asleep. I didn't get home until like super late last night. We recorded all those extra videos. That was the longest we've ever had to record stuff when we do these commercial breaks that we're going to get to in a second.
And we were the most prepared this week than we've ever been. And it took us the longest to record because wonderful technology.
Yeah, the program that we use, which is usually Nails, was not Nails yesterday. And it set us back. I rolled in, Frank, and they already started the game by the time I got there, and so I had to bat last in my first game. Mm-hmm. The team we were playing like shouldn't be up in the league that we're playing in. They got bumped up because they won the lower league, and by the time I had my first at bat, it was 11-0 in our favor. At that point it was tough. They had to throw a dad out there to pitch, like some, he's the older gentleman that didn't know how to pitch. And I was, and at the Plex, the field that we're on at 6 o'clock.
So it's just like Little League.
It's more like a position player went out there to pitch.
When the kid can't pitch, you throw in the dad to just lob some in.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And then, but like that field's got like this, it faces west. So you're just right into the sun. And so he's pitching, trying to throw a strike. It goes into the sun. I'm guessing where it is. And the whole time I'm like, oh my God, please don't kill it. Please don't kill the pitcher. That's literally what my thinking was the entire time. So I swung at some bad pitches, popped up a couple times, rolled over a couple times. There you go. Wow. Shout out to Don's Baseball 2009. Love it in the YouTube chat.
I rolled over a couple times too.
Yeah. Sleeping, a little stressful sleep there last night?
Yeah.
Was it because of the Mets experience?
No. I saw they were down 1-0, and then I saw they were down 4-0. I'm like, well, that's unfortunate.
You know what's not great about the Padres being off is one, Ruiz in the YouTube chat having to watch the Mets.
He didn't have to.
He inflicts the pain on himself because he inflicts pain on himself with being an Arsenal fan for no reason. Hitting like Sam, I see. I actually hit better, Nate, later on in the day. Sam actually got a couple of knocks. I was proud of Sam. I was proud of Sam. All right, enough of nonsense about that. We do have to talk about a lot of different subjects that we have on docket today. We got a buyer segment today at 11 o'clock about early season trends in baseball. Does Major League Baseball finally have parity? Are the Miami Marlins a good team? Jordan Walker, is he finally having his breakout season? Is Mason Miller a Cy Young candidate? And is Pete Alonso a free agent bust for the Orioles? We'll discuss that at 11 o'clock. We got some other topics about the Padres that we're going to get to here momentarily. And when we come back, I know the Padres have had a little bit of a bumpy start in their bullpen, but there's some reasons for not really panic, if you will. There's reasons to be calm about this Padres bullpen. We take a deeper dive into what that looks like when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Setting Zimmerman Sports Station 97 through the Fan. The NHL regular season is coming down to the wire, and even though most playoff teams are set, the chaos is just getting started. Seeding is still up for grabs, and that matters, or does it? Because here's the reality. Being a top seed in the NHL doesn't guarantee you anything. Avalanche already locked up the best record in hockey, and the Hurricanes are about to take the East, but that doesn't mean they're safe. Why? Because wildcard teams like the Kings and the Predators can sneak in, and those are the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. Already playing do-or-die hockey. At the same time, the MVP race just flipped. Nikita Kucherov is now leading over Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, so everything is happening at once. Playoff races, MVP battles, and teams fighting for positioning. But the biggest question is this: does seeding actually matter, or is it all about who gets hot at the right time? Because in the NHL, momentum changes everything. The NHL regular season is officially down to its final days, and while the NHL playoff spots are mostly locked in, seeding chaos is everywhere heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs this weekend. At the top, Colorado already has clinched the President's Trophy, locking in home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. Meanwhile, Carolina Hurricanes are closing in on the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, continuing their dominant season. But the real drama, well, it's in the middle. The Atlantic Division is still a three-team race with the Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens, and Tampa Bay Lightning, all within a couple of points, meaning matchups could flip at the last second. Out west, the wild card race is pure chaos. The LA Kings currently control their own destiny, but teams like Nashville and San Jose are still mathematically alive. Bottom line, who knows who's in, but we don't know who's playing who yet. As we record this on Monday, the biggest takeaway to me is, and I know we're going to take a deeper dive into what to watch this week, but the reality is the NHL playoff format used to be great, and they changed it, and it doesn't make any sense now of why they're doing it this way. There's teams with a lot of good wins, and actually more wins in regulation, missing the postseason for teams that lose a lot in overtime. The way the seeding plays out doesn't make a lot of sense. I like the old system. The new one is creating for the wrong kind of controversy.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter in a way, because the NHL postseason always brings out some of the craziness that sports has to offer. It is by far and away the most entertaining, the best entertainment for value playoff out of any of the four major sports. I would take the NHL playoffs over anything right about now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they had top 8 in each conference, and then they would reseed. Seeding actually did probably matter. I mean, you have really good matchups in the first round with highly competitive teams, but you're eliminating some of your best teams in the early rounds instead of like later on. I don't necessarily know if it's the best path for the playoffs, but tonight's slate, as we record this on Monday, and I might have to post this one today and post a different one on Thursday that we usually do. But Monday's slate is massive. Playoff positioning and eliminations on the line. The Kings can clinch a playoff spot with a win. Flyers can lock into a playoff matchup with the Penguins. Hurricanes can secure the number 1 seed in the East. Sabres can win the Atlantic Division. And don't overlook the Pacific Division. The Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers are battling for the top spot. Then that could determine the easier or much harder path at round 1. At the same time, the draft lottery is shaping up with teams like the Blackhawks and the Rangers already locked into top odds. I look at like my own team in the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, what a poor time to start playing poor hockey. They had a chance to clinch on Sunday night, finally a playoff spot, which seems to be inevitable, but they continue to push it down the road with 2 games left as they get ready to play the Wild later this week. They had a chance against the Canucks on Sunday, a team that has been awful all season, and they lose in overtime.
Yeah, we've brought up the fact that last week, the New York Islanders firing their head coach, Patrick Waugh, to try to snap the team into better form. They did win their first game under Peter DeBoer, but they've lost the next 2. They're now out of the playoffs, and most teams at this point, again, on Monday as we record, only have about another game, maybe 2 left in the season. So it is really down to crunch time in the NHL right now.
As the season wraps, the biggest individual storyline is the MVP race. And right now, Frank, it's getting pretty heated at the top.
Yeah, right now, Nikita Kucherov surging into the lead for the Hart Trophy, the MVP of the league. Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon right now are right up there with him. Nikita Kucherov's case, he carried Tampa through injuries, still putting up insane numbers. Meanwhile, Zach Werenski now leading in the Norris race. New York Islander rookie Matthew Schaefer seems to be a lock for Rookie of the Year, and Andrei Vasilevsky leading the Vezina Trophy race as the best coach. So not only are teams fighting for positions, players like these guys are making last-second MVP and potential award statements as well.
Is seeding actually an advantage in the NHL playoffs, or does it not matter at all? I mean, eventually you do have to beat the best team if you want to win the NHL playoffs. But here's broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. All right. We're pretty close now. Smash the numbers. Let off the YouTube chat today with it. 960 subscribers on YouTube. We're 40 away from the 1,000 mark. We're trying to get to 1,000. We're so close, guys. We're so close. We're so close. Yes, question.
Who's Jim?
I don't know who Jim is. I think it's supposed to be him. Let's get him to 1,000 people.
Gotcha.
We don't have a Jim as part of our show, so let's not get Jim to 1,000. Let's get
us
to 1,000. Smash was so excited to type that out that he put J instead of H. That's a good question, though. Thanks for asking.
They are right next to each other on the keyboard, to be fair.
That's right. Go Aztecs is already subscribed, even though he watches on Twitch. We appreciate that. It's super easy to do. Go to youtube.com/@B_SURP. Pull up our page. We have 40 more subscribers to go. Again, guys, it's free to do. Puts all of our content right in one spot. Super easy. Super useful. Trying to get to 1,000. youtube.com/@B_SURP. Bang. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Thumbs up baseball graphic again, by the way. So if you go to the YouTube page, give us a like. A baseball will pop up. It's great. It's awesome. We love it. Okay. Subscribe to Jim. It's funny. Let's talk about the Padres bullpen a second. There's an article in the Union Tribune today about the Padres bullpen. I said yesterday, it was kind of interesting. Like we really talked about this yesterday a little bit, right, Frank? When it came to everything's going to be magnified with the bullpen because they don't pitch as much. So it's only 2 weeks into the 2026 season, and the Padres bullpen talk is already very loud. Key facts for this bullpen. High expectations entering this season. When you have a guy like Mason Miller as a closer, you have All-Star and Adrian Morejon, you have Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, plus solid depth. you were going to have a lot of expectations in the bullpen. We knew this going into the season because the starting pitching for the Padres was going to be a little bit on the iffier side, and you knew that you had a lot of bullpen arms. You also knew that you had a lot of bullpen depth because most of the talent in the minor leagues that were ready to come up to the major leagues were, in fact, bullpen arms. Now, you have had some early issues. Jason Adam is returning from a quad injury. Jeremiah Estrada is now on the injured list with elbow tendonitis and lost velocity. Yuki Matsui's groin tweak happened in the spring. Soft contact issues. Morahone has allowed runs in 4 of 6 appearances we talked about yesterday, including a 5-run blow-up in Pittsburgh. And surface stats look okay for the bullpen and look a little shaky for a guy like Adrian Morahone. Now, your team bullpen ERA is 3.13. It's 8th best in Major League Baseball. Probably should be higher considering what the bullpen is and the talent you have back there. The bullpen fielding independent pitching is a 2.42. Pretty solid. 4th in Major League Baseball. And of course, the back end of this bullpen with Mason Miller, he has 19 strikeouts and 24 batters faced, 4 of 4 in saves, and 28 2/3 innings, scoreless streak still intact. Now, anybody that is worried about some of the arms of the bullpen. Now, I've gotten these questions too. And I'm not going to name names, but I have gotten this. Is it shocking to you, Frank, that I have gotten texts that say Craig Stammen cannot manage a bullpen? Is that shocking to you?
No.
I got a question for everybody.
Not in the slightest.
I got a question for everybody. Do Major League Baseball organizations, do they like purposely hire people that can't run a bullpen? Because
Yes.
I have seen from multiple fan bases, including the ones that have really good teams, nobody can run a bullpen. No manager knows how to run a bullpen. Every fan knows how to manage a bullpen. Not a single manager knows how to manage a bullpen. I find that interesting. I find it ironic. Why are all these baseball teams not hiring the fans? Maybe the fans should run the bullpen. I can't believe he did that there. Those guys didn't play well. Is that his fault? I thought like bringing in Adrian Morahone at this point in the game, isn't that what you want him to do?
No, like I told you over the weekend, Adrian, we want Adrian less John now. We don't want Adrian more John. We want less John now.
Foul.
He draws the foul.
All right. You're going to get bullpen volatility. It's normal, especially with the tiny sample size. In fact, Ruben Niebla talked about it. He talked about reliever performances being evaluated on a much shorter span. 7 to 9 games is approximately 150 pitches for a starter. I mean, early struggles are part of the game in baseball. Bullpens are volatile by nature. You're going to see guys that just don't have a good day. So I think anybody that might be a little bit worried about how Craig Stammen manages the bullpen or might worry about this bullpen is a little overreacting in the first couple of weeks. I mean, baseball is constant adjustments, and the bullpen already climbed up 4 spots in the ERA rankings after sweeping the Rockies. So you can't just judge a handful of outings. Now, I think the biggest talking point, and I spoke about this, yesterday, but it was kind of sarcastic when it came to Adrian Morahone. And it was basically in the sense, it was talking more in the sense of like Jeremiah Estrada isn't as bad as what his numbers say. If you look at all of his outings, he's only had two outings in which he has given up runs. 2 outings in which he's given up runs. Only 1 outing in which he has given up earned runs. And everybody thought he was like the worst pitcher ever. And if velocity's down, he needs to be able to build that back up, get back to being healthy as he's on the injured list. But that being said, this is how volatile these bullpens are. And so I brought up Adrian Morahone as the counter because Adrian Morahone's been pretty good in his Padres career. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Dennis Lin has said He doesn't think he's going to be back at the end of the year because he doesn't think it really fits into the team nor Adrian Morejon, but that's a different topic for a different day. On the surface this year, Adrian Morejon's got a 10.8 ERA. Runs allowed in 4 of 6 outings, and he had the ugly Pittsburgh appearance. Now, we talked about the deeper metrics on the offensive side and why things are better than what they actually are. Same thing can be said about Adrian Morejon. Now, his fielding independent pitching is around a 2.80 or 2.10 recently, which is better than his all-star season in 2025, which is a 2.28 fielding independent pitching. He's sitting around 99.2 on his fastball, which is in the 99th percentile out of major league pitchers. He has no barreled balls allowed, not a single hitter, despite the runs that he has given up, not a single batter has barreled a baseball on Adrian Morejon. And most of the hits that Adrian Morejon has given up are weak grounders or soft contact. In fact, which means they're less than 80 miles an hour on the exit velo. His batting average on balls in play is 500, which is way above the league average and double last year's 245. And as Ruben Niebla said in an article today in the paper, Adrian Morejon is being babbipped to death. And that this is a better version than last year. Morejon's actually pitching better than he did last year. If you look at his metrics and you hear what his pitching coach said, he's just gotten some terrible luck in a tiny sample size. So I think a lot of people had been a little bit on Adrian Morejon. I think he's gotten some bad luck. And the bad luck that I think about immediately is the Red Sox game where he gets the ground ball double play to get out of the game, get out of the inning, whatever that was. I think it was the 8th inning. He fields it and flips it to Cronenworth. A little bit of a rough throw. Cronenworth drops it trying to turn too quickly. That's one of the many of occurrences that have happened for Adrian Morejon. So, whether or not he's pitching better than ever, I don't know if that's the case. According to some metrics, it might look like that. But I think he's getting terrible luck in a tiny sample size. And I would imagine it's going to get a little bit better for Adrian Morejon. Good pitchers ride through these stretches. Double-digit ERA is very misleading. Fielding independent pitching tells the real story for Adrian Morejon. I think he's going to be a lockdown arm again soon. Now, we have a couple of minutes, but we are going to get to our break here because we do have our guest ready to go. So when we come back, we're going to get a preview of the Padres and Mariners series, the Vedder Cup, if you will, here in San Diego for part 1 of this 2-part series. The play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners, Aaron Goldsmith, will join us when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. The NBA playoffs are here, and this year it's wide open. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites, but that also means it's championship or bust. In the East, the Detroit Pistons are the number 1 seed, but all eyes are on Cade Cunningham's health. If he's not 100%, they could be out early. The Celtics look dangerous. The Knicks are under pressure, and the Hawks might be the sleeper team nobody wants to face. Out west, well, it's chaos. Lakers are dealing with major injuries to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, so now it's all on LeBron. Spurs are rising fast behind Victor Wembanyama, and the Nuggets still have Nikola Jokic, who can take over any series. And don't forget the play-in: Warriors, Clippers, Heat fighting just to survive. So here's the question: is this the Thunder's league now? Or is the NBA more unpredictable than ever? The NBA postseason is officially here, and this year it feels wide open. We've got 20 teams still alive in the play-in tipping off this week, and a finals race that might come down to health, depth, and who gets hot at the right team. Let's start in the East, Frank.
Yeah, the surprise of the season, the Detroit Pistons, number 1 overall seed with 60 wins out of 82 opportunities. This team is built on defense and toughness, led by Cade Cunningham, who's finally playing like a franchise superstar. But here's the catch. He's coming off a serious injury. And in the playoffs, if your best player isn't right, nothing else really matters. Right behind them, the Boston Celtics look like the most complete team in the East. Jason Tatum is back. Jaylen Brown is playing at an elite level, but their front court depth is a real question. Then there's pressure, real pressure on the on the Knicks, not by the Knicks, on the Knicks. They didn't build a roster to quote unquote compete. They built it to win. If Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns do not deliver, there could be major changes. And keep an eye on the Atlanta Hawks, who the Knicks are going to have to face in the first round. One of the hottest teams in basketball. They flipped their entire identity midseason, and now they're a legitimate upset threat.
Now to the Western Conference, and this is where things get real. The defending champion, the Oklahoma City Thunder, are the clear favorites. Best net rating in the league, best defense, and led by MVP level Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And for them, it's simple: championship or bust. Right behind them, the San Antonio Spurs, powered by Victor Wembanyama. When they've been dominant, and they have been dominant, but this is their real first playoff test. Can their fast-paced style survive when the game slows down? And then there's chaos in the middle. The Los Angeles Lakers are in serious trouble. Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves are hurt, which means everything falls on LeBron. And that's not necessarily a recipe for success in 2026. All guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking, it's better. And joining us now is the television play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners. His name is Aaron Goldsmith, and he joins us on the SDCCU fan hotline here on the Braden Surprenant show as we get a preview of the Padres and the Mariners. Will start a 3-game series starting tonight. All-night games here in America's finest city. Aaron, welcome to San Diego. Good to talk to you. Good to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks. It's always great coming to San Diego. Appreciate you having me.
Let's talk about this Seattle Mariners team a little bit more. I mean, obviously, Aaron, they just swept the Astros and are now sitting 8-9 on the season, only 1.5 games back in the American League West early in the year. From your standpoint, your viewpoint, what has given Seattle's recent, what has fueled this Seattle's recent surge, and how has that 4-game sweep changed the energy around this club heading into Petco Park?
The Astros pitching, or lack thereof, is what has fueled the Mariners' resurgence. I think it's pretty straightforward. The Mariners caught the Astros at the right time. They are as injured as almost any team in baseball. Maybe the Blue Jays have an argument to make with them on that, but their rotation has been decimated. Their bullpen has been overworked and then some. And credit to the Mariners, they really took advantage of that. The Mariners have played absolute extreme baseball on one end of the spectrum and then on the other in the last, call it, almost 10 games. They were nearly winless on their previous road trip. They were swept in 3 games to end the trip in Arlington against the Rangers. They scored a total of 3 runs in 3 games. And the sky was falling in Seattle for many fans because this is a team that truly believes that they can win a World Series this year. And it did not get off to a great start, at least on that first road trip. And then the Mariners came home and they swept the division rival in 4 games. And the last couple of games, they made it look a little bit easier than maybe parts of the first 2. But the Mariners' offense was phenomenal. They drew a ton of walks. They hit for power. They hit for average. They did just about everything right when it was all said and done in those 4 games against the Astros. It was a really kind of a get-right series for them. And they're hoping that will help carry them a little bit. And what's always a good Padres team and always a good matchup when these 2 teams get together.
Brian Wu, starting pitcher tonight, has dominated the Padres in his career. The 2.3 ERA and a 16-2 strikeout to walk ratio in 19 to third innings. What makes Wu so tough? Just in general, but also, he's been very tough against the Padres specifically. How do you see the Padres lineup, this current lineup, stacking up against Brian Wu?
Well, when you face Brian Wu, you're going to see one thing a lot of the time, and that is a fastball. In his case, 2 fastballs, both his 4-seamer and his 2-seamer. I know last year, at least, it's a little early to jump to too many conclusions this year, at least at this point. But last year, the Padres struggled some against the fastball, which is kind of odd to think about when you think about the talent in that lineup. But you have to be ready for the fastball. And even if you are, to be fair to hitters, even if you are ready for it, he has 2 very different fastballs. They both look the same in terms of the velocity, somewhere between 95 and 97, maybe even 98 miles an hour, but they move very differently. And that's a challenge for a lot of hitters. He also is very unique in terms of where the ball comes from. He throws from an incredibly low slot. So it's just a different look. And I think especially for a team not only outside the division, but in a different league that doesn't maybe see Bryan Woo as much. It's a tough thing to get used to, and he is a remarkably unique pitcher, especially in an era of spin and secondaries, and we've never seen so many pitchers with so many different pitches than we do now, right? It's not uncommon to see a guy with 5, even 6 pitches today. For Woo, although he has secondaries, certainly, he could easily throw 70% fastball in any given start. And until the opposing team makes him get off the heater, he's going to just keep coming at you. And I think in an era of the pitch timer, it empowers Woo even more. It makes him even more deadly with those fastballs because you can't just step out like you used to be able 2 years ago. And he's relentless. He just keeps coming at you, and with power stuff that really moves. So he's about as tough as they come. He's remarkably talented, and after an All-Star season last year, I think he's getting more and more well-deserved recognition.
We're talking with Aaron Goldsmith, who is the lead play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners for their television broadcast, giving us a preview between the Mariners and the Padres. Start a 3-game series tonight. First pitch at 6:40. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt on our radio waves at 5:40 this afternoon. Should be a fun series here in San Diego. We talked a little bit about the pitching. Off-season addition, Brendan Donovan. That was the kind of the one of the bigger ones. I mean, aside from obviously bringing back Josh Naylor to a team that had success with him last year, going to the ALCS. What has Brendan Donovan done to help this Mariners team out so far? What have you noticed out of Brendan Donovan being added to this now core up in Seattle?
Well, he's really elevated what was already a team that, you think about the Mariners with the pitching, but a team that, especially with recent additions of Rosarena a couple of years ago, Naylor, as you mentioned last year at the All-Star break, and now signing long-term, and now Donovan to go along with homegrown talent, guys like Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez. He really has elevated a team that was already on a nice trajectory offensively. He's the Mariners' leadoff hitter every game against right-handers. He's somebody who isn't known for hitting the ball over the fence, although he has already done that a handful of times. But it's just as tough of an at-bat as I think you'll find for a right-handed pitcher. And a guy who sprays it, great contact hitter, low strikeout, high on base. It's really all the things you want for a leadoff man, especially when you've got guys behind him like Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez and Josh Naylor who can do some real damage. It's a work in progress for Donovan at third base. He's a guy who historically, as you guys have probably seen even out of the division, but is a former National League player who is probably best known defensively for his versatility. The Mariners are, at least right now, not asking him to be versatile. They're asking him to learn an everyday position that he hasn't played a ton of over the course of his career, and that's at third base. So that's something that he is needing to get better at, and he's beat himself up already a little bit with some post-game comments after some miscues defensively. I'm sure for a guy who's got a gold patch on his glove, who's won a utility gold glove, he really prides himself on that side of the ball, and for good reason because of what he's already accomplished. But he's being asked to become an everyday third baseman in the big leagues. And that's not an easy thing to do, even for a guy who has some real defensive chops in Donovan. But he's been everything the Mariners have hoped for, and I think it's fair to say even more already.
We're talking with Aaron Goldsmith, the lead play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners, giving us a preview of Mariners and Padres coming up this week. We're part of the interleague rivalry, if you will. Padres and Mariners, they've played each other almost every single year now, and with the new scheduling format, 6 games every year between the Padres and the Mariners. From a Padres perspective, it's like, any other series. I'm sure it's the same with the Mariners. But I just think a question for you in about this particular interleague, rivalry. I mean, obviously they're trying to make it work with the Vedder Cup, and they're trying to make it be a little bit more than just, 6 games against each other. What do you think about the interleague rivalries that Major League Baseball does, especially since, Seattle and San Diego are so far away?
Well, I think it is maybe a rivalry just simply because the two teams play each other every year, and maybe you can call it that as a result. I don't know. I guess everyone has maybe their own definition of rivalry. There seems to me like there needs to be either something great at stake or some bad blood for it to be a rivalry. And neither of those things are present when the Mariners and the Padres play one another. And that's no one's fault. That's just the way it is. I think these are two teams that, at least right now in their current era of Padres baseball and Mariners baseball, are two remarkably fun and incredibly talented teams. I think we can all agree on that. And for the fans alone, to be able to watch these two teams go head to head in two series a year, I think is an absolute treat. I mean, you have some real powerhouse talent, both on the mound and in the batter's box when these two teams get together. You have two beautiful ballparks, two terrific West Coast cities. I mean, to me, especially when you look at this current run for both the Padres and for the Mariners, it's just an incredible collection of baseball players going head to head. So for me, I mean, I love when these two teams meet each other because there's so many storylines. Both teams are so fun to watch. Both teams for years now have had not just postseason aspirations, but the greatest of postseason aspirations. So if you're a fan, what more can you ask for? And for the Mariners and for us, hey, we get a chance to have a little bit of a longer stay in San Diego every year, which is never a bad thing.
Two teams that have been, dying to get back to the World Series, and a team that's been trying to get there for the first time. Aaron, what they made the offensive addition, right? They've kept a nice core up there in Seattle. It seems like the Mariners continue to do all the right things. In all your years covering the Mariners, what is making this team special than the others, and what do the Mariners have to do to try to represent the American League? I know it's early in the season, but we'd only get to talk to you, once, maybe twice this year. What does this Mariners team have to do to get over that ALCS hump to get to the World Series based on what you've seen in previous years and what this team has available this year?
Well, the Mariners were 8 outs away from their first ever World Series last year, and you can make the case they're a better team this year. So they were this close, right, to going to their first ever World Series. And we've talked about some of the additions they made during the offseason, and they believe that their pitching staff will be healthy this year, which their rotation was not for a vast majority of last year, at least healthy all collectively at one time. But when I think about, this is my 14th year calling Mariners baseball, and when you walk in the Mariners clubhouse and you look at the nameplates on the lockers, I mean, truthfully, it's a lot like how people probably feel when they walk in the Padres clubhouse and look at those nameplates and the back of those jerseys. You look around and you go, man, there's some real dudes in here. I remember when the Mariners played at Wrigley in 2016, the year that the Cubs won the World Series. I was in the Cubs clubhouse and looking around and just looking at the massive amount of talent that was in that Cubs clubhouse. And it was one of the early times in my career where I was just kind of overwhelmed by just when you see it all in one room, right? You realize the actual star power that team had, and they did. They were able to cash it in and win it all. And I get some similar feelings when I look around in the Mariners clubhouse now, and you see guys like Cal Raleigh, who nearly won an MVP, Julio Rodriguez, who has become a star in baseball, and then guys with great credentials and personality as well, like an Arozarena or a Naylor. Not to mention somebody like Donovan, who we've talked about, and we haven't even touched on the pitchers yet. It's arguably, certainly when healthy and right, a top 5 rotation, and maybe the best rotation in baseball. We'll see how the year plays out. But the point is, the Mariners have all the personnel, and the Padres should feel the same way, right? These, like we said, these are two star-studded teams. But to me, that's the difference for the Mariners this year, and even last year to a large degree, is that the Mariners have done a remarkable job via draft, via trade as well, and some free agency of accumulating just some world-class talent. And that's why they believe that this is the year that they could get to a fall classic for the first time and hopefully win it.
Last thing for you, Aaron, as we kind of finish off this preview of the Padres and the Mariners series coming up tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday. You get to travel around and call a lot of Mariners baseball games. You get to see a lot of other teams, obviously. You see the Mariners every single day. Who are the players you're most excited to see play on the Padres, guys that you don't get to see on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a great question. Tatis is obviously, even in changing from a premium position at shortstop to right field, which may sometimes be overlooked. I still feel like every time the Mariners and the Padres get together, there's something defensively that Tatis does, and that doesn't even account for what he does in the batter's box as well. I mean, I remember this was a couple of years ago at this point. I was walking around town before a game at Petco, and I saw two fans walking next to each other, and one had on a Tatis Padres jersey, and the other one had on a Julio Rodriguez Mariners jersey. And I was walking behind these people, and this was before Julio got the big extension, and Tatis had already gotten his. And it kind of dawned on me, oh my gosh, when these two teams get together, you have two true world-class talents who are potentially becoming the face of baseball or faces of baseball, which I know is maybe a big statement to make. But they certainly have that potential. I think we'd all agree on that. And so when you see Julio Rodriguez versus Fernando Tatis Jr. and the athleticism that those two provide, it's remarkable. And then another guy who I think there are few people that you can say, oh, this guy right now is a Hall of Famer. And I've seen a lot of Manny Machado over the course of his career, obviously dating back to the time he was in the same league with the Mariners with Baltimore. And Machado is somebody that you just marvel at his overall consistency for his career, his ability to remain at a premium position at third base and play it well. You never feel comfortable when Machado is up. And I know he's probably, when you watch him every day, you probably see more of the swings and the lulls. But when you look at it to the end of the year, you go, yeah, man, that guy's on his way to Cooperstown one day. So, those are two players that certainly off the top of the head, when you think about the Padres, you think about Tatis and Manny Machado, and that doesn't even include somebody like Jackson Merrill, and the list can go on and on.
Yeah, or even like what Mason Miller's been doing, and I know you guys have seen him a lot with him being part of the A's for a long period of time. Should be a fun series. I see a lot of similarities. I'm sure you do as well between the Padres and Mariners. Should be a fun time. Enjoy your trip here to San Diego, and look forward to talking to you again when the Padres are up in Seattle.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Aaron Goldsmith, lead play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show here on a Tuesday, getting ready for Padres and Mariners later on this evening, if you will. 6:40 start, the Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40 with Sam Levitt. This is a Mariners team. We're going to have time to talk about this a little bit later, but without really getting into the weeds or really diving into this Mariners team's got a lot of similarities with the Padres. And I look at this Mariners team, and they're kind of trying to chase down the same thing the Padres are. Getting over that hump and making it to a World Series. For the Padres, it would be their third, and for the Mariners, it would be their first ever. And they were 8 outs away last year from doing it. It's a fan base that has seen a lot of great things in Seattle, and then have seen them really fall apart as well. But they got a lot of young talent. They got a lot of great players on that team too. It should be a fun time between the Padres and Mariners. Frank, I see this as a pretty evenly matched series this week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Seattle's a good team. They're also another team that's got some great starting pitching. You're going to miss the two big names of Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert. You're going to miss those guys. Fortunately, the other guy, George Kirby, who pitched yesterday. Mm-hmm. So you're missing a good amount of players. You're missing a good amount of the young stars that they have in that starting rotation. But that's a lineup that if you allow them opportunities, they are going to take them. It's not like Colorado where they're going to let some opportunities fall by the wayside. This is a team that is going to punish you if you make mistakes, and they're coming off a big series win against the Houston Astros as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think it's going to be a little bit different from them getting hot against the Astros compared to the Rockies getting hot against the Astros. So, this is a team that's like, even their start to the season, they might have gotten off to a little bit longer of a slow start to the season than the Padres have, but they flipped it. And they got right with the Astros. So I think it's going to be a pretty good series. And it's going to be tough, I think, to go against Brian Wu. That's the guy that's really owned the Padres in his career, as we have gone over the numbers multiple times. So I'm looking forward to Padres baseball tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how they do against the Mariners, see if they can go to 6 wins in a row despite the day off on a Monday. To start the season.
You had a day off yesterday, and Seattle had to play an afternoon game and then travel So you're a lot more rested than the Seattle team is. If you are gonna want to jump out and get a great start to this series, tonight is going to be the night to do it.
How long is that flight? Like a couple hours?
Yeah, it's not a long flight, but after a ball
It's
game,
3 hours and 10 minutes.
yeah, after a 3-hour and 10-minute ball game, that's a long day for you.
Yeah, it's good to have the day off. Hopefully the Padres. And sometimes day offs are good and sometimes day offs are bad. I mean, it's like when you're playing really good baseball, you want to keep getting out there and playing. Sometimes you don't want a day off, but hopefully they come out ready to go. Michael King again tonight. Michael King's put together some good starts. We haven't talked about him a ton on the show because he's just kind of been doing Michael King things. I think he kind of got hosed in the game against Boston in terms of like how he was pitching and then the bullpen kind of giving it up. They were his runners, so he got dinged with the earned runs. But I'd like to see Michael King like kind of build off of his last couple of starts tonight.
He's had a good start to this season. That first start was a little like, okay, now how much of that is lingering injury? How much of it is, just because I think he only got like 1 or 2 starts in spring training. He was another one that didn't start all that much, right?
Yeah, he didn't have too many outings in spring. They were trying to like ease him back into it too because he missed a lot of time last year.
Yeah, so how much of that was just him not getting too much outing in spring training, him in the ramp up process, and then his last 2 starts were very, very good. They were solid starts and starts that, especially the one in Boston, that given the chance to given more opportunities on offense, you could have come out of that game with a win for him. So he's been a very, very solid pitcher for the Padres so far this season.
Yeah, you look at his outings. I mean, like I thought he pitched well against Boston. That was his worst outing statistically. Give up 4 because of those inherited runners that Wandy Peralta let score in that game. I mean, he ended up giving up 4 earned runs. Gave up the 1 home run too as well. He had the 1 walk, but he gave you 5 2/3 and had 5 strikeouts. But the first outing, he had 5 innings, no earned runs, 1 run total on 1 hit. 4 walks kind of hurt, but he got off to a good start. It's a shame that the Padres are 1-2 in his starts so far because he has given you some pretty good starts. And so I'd like to see him like really settle in and get a really good outing today against the Mariners. I mean, you got arguably your 3 better pitchers right now, or at least 2 of your better pitchers with Michael King and Randy Vasquez. Those are 2 of your best pitchers in this rotation right now. So, you're going to get some pitchers duels, I think, for the next couple of days. With it being at sea level and the pitching that you're going to go against, the pitching that you have, I just think runs are going to be at a premium this week, which naturally means tonight's game will be like 14-11 or something like that. But it'd be good to get Michael King another win. I mean, he's 1-1 in the season. It's unfortunate he got the loss in the Red Sox game, but he's looked better and better every single start he has gone out there. And that's really encouraging for a guy that missed a lot of last year and somebody that you decided to, give a contract extension to, if you will, or re-sign. Actually, they ended up re-signing Michael King. And I just when they was it on our show, I think it was when Michael King had his little press conference.
Yeah, that was our.
But it wasn't. We didn't we didn't do the conduct the interview. But Joe Musgrove talked about Michael King and like, well, he's like settled in here now. He doesn't have to worry about money. I think that was a little telling with what Michael King in terms of like what he might do with an opt out. I mean, he might stay here, which would be cool to see. And I like to see him build off of his starts that he had already this season. When we come back, buy or sell some of the trending topics in Major League Baseball. Has baseball finally achieved parity? We'll discuss next. 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. Padres baseball coming up at 6:40. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40 with Sam Levitt. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego Summer Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. We are broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. Wanted to say, ask for a favor. Go to youtube.com/@B_SURP. give us a subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000. We're at 964. We're close. We are close. We are close to 1,000. Trying to get to 1,000. Helps us out in a tremendous way. All right. We haven't been able to talk too much about Major League Baseball. In general, we've talked a lot about the San Diego Padres, but right now, we want to get into a little Major League Baseball talk with our buy or sell, if you will. And it's time for our buy or sell Major League Baseball edition. Early season trends in baseball. I think we should fire up the music. There we go. It's been a while.
Read your mind, bud.
Scraby's been playing our music more than we have. It's going to commandeer it.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, so let's start with number one.
Let's do that. All right, so MLB finally has achieved real parity. It's time for buy or sell. Our first one comes from the early season surprises in Major League Baseball. The hot take is Major League Baseball finally has real parity. We're seeing small market teams like the Pirates leading the division and the Los Clemente A's beating up on both New York teams, while almost every division race is bunched up tight. Is this real competitive balance we're watching, or just the usual April chaos that will sort itself out? So buy or sell, MLB finally has real parity.
I think this is the closest you've had if you cut the Dodgers out of the league. If it's a 29-team league and the Dodgers are out of it, then I think everybody else has a lot of parity.
Even then, going into last night, they were only a game up in the West.
They're going to go off eventually, but it's early in the season. But I think this is the most like everybody's around 500 though. Like we've seen teams like the Twins get hot to start the season. We've seen teams struggle out the gate and they're like 2-14. And we've seen teams get out to like the Padres last year. What were they? 14-3 in their first 17 games. You look at the standings right now, a lot of teams are very close to 500, which is what you're going to see out of Major League Baseball teams the entire season. Not a lot of teams have gotten onto pretty big hot streaks yet. So I'm actually going to buy this. I think baseball is getting more parity with their middle group of teams. Now, I still think the Dodgers are not part of this equation. I really don't. But you got teams like the Pirates off to pretty decent starts. They usually fall apart at some point in the season. The A's took 5 out of 6 from the Mets and the Yankees. Marlins are still staying competitive. We thought the Marlins were going to have a good season this year. But you got strong starting rotations on low payroll teams. That's going to keep games close. It's Marlins and Pirates. No clear super teams dominating yet. I mean, even the Dodgers, who are a super team, they haven't started to dominate yet. But I buy it for 29 teams. I don't buy it for the Dodgers. I really don't. The Dodgers are eventually just going to start destroying people, and they'll be like way above everybody else, and then you'll have the parity between. But you're going to see a lot of matchups of close games. I think. I know it's April. I get a small sample size, but I think this is probably more parity to start a season than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very close. And again, I
say parity for 29 teams.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is really, really close. And we see teams like the Pirates and stuff like that get off to good starts, but it's such a short sprint right now that you can't really take those teams seriously just yet. If you're seeing them leading in April, or if you're seeing them leading in like June or July, then yeah, I start to take that a little bit more seriously. But certainly a lot of parity so far in the early stages of this season. Up next, the Miami Marlins. After years of being at the bottom, the Marlins are off to a solid start, sitting competitively in the National League East with a strong young rotation led by Sandy Alcantara and Yuri Perez. It's not Yuri Perez, is it? It is Yuri Perez. Plus exciting young pieces like Owen Casey. Are the Marlins actually a good team this year, or is this just another early season mirage? Buy or sell? The Marlins are actually good.
I buy that because I thought they're going to be better this year. I mean, they finished last year strong. They were 41-35 in their final 76 games. That's not a tiny sample size. Starting rotation's good. I mean, when you think about good teams, they got to play good baseball. They got to have good starting rotation. They got to have talent. Well, they have a good starting rotation with Alcantara and Perez, Max Myers flashing ace type stuff so far to start the season, and then you got to have talent. You know this team's got talent. You want to know why you know this team has talent, Frank? Because AJ Preller drafted this team. This is a lot of Padres draft picks. What has AJ Preller been very good at in his tenure as the general manager of the San Diego Padres?
Drafting.
Not just drafting, acquiring talent.
Yeah.
They have a lot of it. And they even got guys that, like, the Padres didn't even personally give them. Like Xavier Edwards, they got from the Rays. He was part of, like, the Blake Snell trade. But they got a good middle infield that bring average speed and defense. They're very modern and effective. Owen Casey, another Padres farmhand, already looking like a good power bat for the Marlins. Kyle Stowers, not touched by Preller, but a San Diego kid who was their best hitter last year. He still hasn't even come back yet from the IL. You see, you can still add to this team. They're 8-8 even after a tough sweep. They show resilience. They got a young core. They got pitching depth. They're a sustainable contender in a very, I would say weaker National League East this season. And that's a lot to do with the fact that the Phillies don't have a lot of depth and they're not playing up to what they expect to be. Mets are good. They're not like world-beating. And the Braves are off to a good start, but I don't think they still have a lot of injuries. And I think they'll come back down to earth a little bit. This is a very competitive National League East. I think the Marlins are going to be tough for teams to beat. I really do. They might be a year away from being real contenders, but I would buy that they are a good team at this point in the season.
Oh, definitely buying it. We saw that, as you mentioned, at the end of last season. They were a team that was dead and buried, and then in the last week of the season, they were fighting for a wild card spot. So yeah, this is a legitimately good team. I buy that 100%. Moving on, St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Jordan Walker. After years of hype and some disappointment, Walker has exploded out of the gate with 8 home runs and a 1.161 OPS in the first couple of weeks. Has he finally broken through with his long-awaited breakout season, or is this just another early flash? Buy or sell, Jordan Walker is finally breaking out.
Well, Jordan Walker, as you mentioned, 333 average. He's already got 8 home runs, 15 RBIs, and 1161 OPS. This is a high power display, but it's 16 games. He's obviously they talked about him making mechanical changes, approach changes after working at Driveline in the offseason. He's got a new stance, new swing. I mean, that looks sustainable. And he's showing the elite tools scouts have raved about as a top prospect, finally translating to MLB production. But it is still very early in 15 to 16 games, and he has had hot starts before. He has had past hot starts fade a lot of the times. His strikeout rate is still very high. Power surge could regress as pitchers adjust. And he has a history of inconsistency. Like, prospect hype hasn't fully materialized yet after full seasons. He's had full seasons to do it. Just because he's off to a strong April start doesn't erase the years of underperformance that is a bigger sample size. So it looks promising. I think it potentially could happen, but as of right now, I'm going to sell it because until he does it for more than 16 games or a month, it's hard for me to say, like, he's finally flipped it when it looks like he's done that multiple times in his career.
Years of underperformance. Kid's only 23 years old. So he still has plenty of time to grow into his body. And if this is the start of it, it's a very, very nice start. And he's finally becoming that centerpiece that the St. Louis Cardinals were expecting and hoping him to be over the last couple of years. And it's coming at a good time. There's no expectations of the Cardinals to finish anywhere but last. So he's able to grow now with no expectations. He is going to be the guy on this next iteration of the Cardinals. But right now, that time is not there yet. So he still has time. He still has room to grow.
I think I got to see a little bit more of Jordan Walker for me to say this is breakout year.
I would agree with that as well. We talked about this a bit yesterday. Padres closer Mason Miller is striking out nearly everyone in sight. 19 strikeouts in just over 7 innings with a 0 ERA. Is he legitimately in the Cy Young conversation this year, or is that too much for a reliever this early? Buy or sell, Mason Miller is a Cy Young candidate.
I will buy that he is a candidate. I'm going to sell the fact that he wins. I think it's in this day and age. We heard the Ken Rosenthal thing yesterday. As much as we don't like Ken Rosenthal, right? He's everybody's favorite reporter.
And as pompous and as looking down from my pedestal as he was saying it.
Easy. Yeah, as much as we don't like Ken Rosenthal, he made a lot of good points yesterday about this. And you can't, he's not doing that intentionally to, poke at Padres fans. There's a lot of legitimacy to it. How can you win a Cy Young when you only throw 60-something and 70 innings in a season and the other guys are throwing 180 innings? How much of an impact are you really making? Yes, I know he is just an anomaly, and it would be crazy, but they have now put in awards for bullpen arms to win awards. I just don't see that ever happening. I think he might get votes for the Cy Young. I just don't think it will be enough. But if you look at what he has been doing, historically dominant. We continue to throw those words out there without even fully diving into exactly what he can do. But hasn't allowed a run, 19 strikeouts and 7 1/3 innings pitched, 23 and a 23.3 strikeout per 9 is ridiculous. And he's converting saves with ease. He's invoking the Hoffman, Mariano Rivera comparisons for a reason. Unhittable stuff, command early, and in a loaded National League with Paul Skeens and Yamamoto and, insert whoever starter here, a shutdown closer with these numbers can absolutely stay in the conversation if he maintains it. But it's just going to be tough, I think, for anybody to give an award to somebody that is not a starting pitcher when it's kind of designed for the starting pitching.
Yeah,
But I would buy that he's a candidate. I think people will vote for him,
especially if he continues on this pace. And this is an unreal pace. As we said, it's a video game pace. If he continues on this pace all season long and doesn't really have a slump or an extended downturn, gets a ton of saves, I think you can say, yeah, he might actually win the thing, but he is going to have to keep on that unreal trajectory that he's on.
You mentioned video game numbers. It's like doing a road to the show and making it the easiest level possible.
Yeah.
And you're just mowing people down. Everything's just strikes. He's throwing stuff up there and it's just gonna hit it.
Yep.
It's crazy what he's been able to accomplish.
It really is. Moving on, Pete Alonso signed a big 5-year deal with the Baltimore Orioles and has started slowly with just a couple of home runs and a big one last night, though, and a sub 700 OPS. Is he already looking like a free agent bust in Baltimore, or is this just a normal adjustment period? Buy or sell, Pete Alonso is a free agent bust for the Baltimore Orioles.
I'm selling that because it's so early. It's April. I know he's hitting 213 with 2 home runs and a low OPS, but the reality is we've seen a lot of players do this with their brand new teams coming out of free agency. A ton, because there's more expectations, there's pressure. Pete Alonso had already won over all the fans in New York, right? Everybody loved Pete Alonso there. Baltimore is expecting him to just be that immediately when they shows up, and he knows he has to prove why he got that contract. Subconsciously, every human being's gonna be I got to prove why they gave me this kind of money, and you get frustrated when you struggle early. So he's gonna go through a lot of pains and struggles. You can't call him a bust unless he's got a couple years, which is crazy to say, but to me, when you evaluate somebody being a bust of a sign, you kind of have to do it at the end of their contract. To be honest with you, we have time for one more. We have one more on the list there.
Both the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners came into 2026 with high expectations after strong 2025 postseasons, but have started slowly. Are they not real contenders this year, or will they turn it around and contend as expected? Buy or sell, The Tigers and Mariners are not contenders.
I'm selling that.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, the poor starts do expose some real issues. Tigers' rotation has been inconsistent beyond Scooble, and their offense is slumping. The Mariners' offense is slow to wake up, although the Astros awakened them over the weekend. So we'll see how they do this week against the Padres. And they're getting some injuries in Seattle as well. American League Central and West have competition. Early holes are hard to dig out of, but you know, I find it to be very difficult to say that they're not going to be into the conversation of competing. I don't. If you look at the Central, dude, I don't think the Twins are going to like keep it up. You know,
No.
The Guardians have shown that they are, you know, they have the devil magic sometimes when it comes to being able to compete. They're just like the Brewers, but at the same time, like they're not a world beater team. Tigers have better starting pitching than anybody else in their division. I eventually think they're going to figure it out. It's early in the season. We've seen Padres teams climb out of bad holes in the past. Mariners, I think, are contenders too. I think the American League West is wide open, especially with the biggest contender to the Mariners this season in the American League West was going to be the Astros. They're awful to start the year. They're digging themselves in such a huge hole. It's going to be difficult for them to climb their way out of said hole. I think the A's are going to be better, but they're not better than the Mariners. I think Texas will hang around for a little bit, and even though Texas is in first place, they're in first place by a game and a half. I mean, the Mariners have already like basically erased most of their slow start in just 4 games against the Astros. So they are contenders. I think the Mariners and the Tigers are. I just think they're off to slow starts of the year. And by the way, they're 2 games under 500. The Detroit Tigers are. The Mariners are 1 game under 500. If they were like 2-14 to start the year, I would say it might be time to panic. But it's early in the season. I think they're going to be contenders.
Yeah, 100%. I agree on all fronts there. That's just a slow start for those teams. If it was extended, if there were injuries, then yeah, I'd be a lot more concerned. But that's not really the case with either one of these two.
Coming up, Dennis Lynn had a mailbag in The Athletic. There's a lot of interesting questions in there that we are going to answer ourselves. We'll take a deeper dive into that. It talks about some ownership, obviously the ownership changes and some of the new information with that happened last week. It's also got something that's interesting about the Los Angeles Dodgers. As we like converse about the Padres, the big elephant in the room is the team that's in the division that's also the team that kind of leads everything. Right now might be the last window for them to outspend and go all in. This might be the last window of opportunity for LA. We'll explain what we mean when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Zimmerman Sports Station 97 through the Fan. The NFL might be in trouble, but not on the field. The U.S. government is now investigating how the league sells its TV rights and whether it's costing you more money to watch games. Think about it. If you want to watch every NFL game today, you need cable, plus streaming services like Amazon Prime, ESPN, Netflix, and even YouTube. That adds up fast, and the NFL says it's still fan-friendly because local games are free. But let's be real. The biggest matchups are increasingly behind paywalls, and here's where it gets interesting. With new TV deals coming soon, the NFL is about to ask everybody for even more money, which could mean even more streaming exclusives. So the big question is, how much is too much for fans? Because at some point, the league risks turning America's most popular sport into a luxury that people can't afford. The NFL is facing unexpected pressure as the U.S. Department of Justice has launched an investigation into how the league sells its media rights. At the center of the issue, whether the NFL is hurting consumers by spreading games across multiple paid streaming platforms. Right now, NFL games are split across traditional networks like CBS Sports, Fox Sports, NBC Sports, along with streaming giants like Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and YouTube. And while local games remain free, many marquee matchups now require multiple subscriptions, increasing the cost for fans as the league currently earns, Frank, that number says $10 billion annually from media rights and is preparing for even bigger deals after 2029.
Yeah, that's billion with a B. However, lawmakers, including Elizabeth Warren and Mike Lee, are questioning whether or not the NFL's antitrust exemption under the 1961 Sports Broadcasting Act still makes sense in today's modern streaming era. Meanwhile, traditional TV partners, especially companies like the Murdoch family, like Fox Corporation, might be pushing back as streaming platforms continue to grab larger shares of the game. So it's not just the government that's bringing this up, it's also the television companies that are bringing this up because they're losing more and more prime games to these streaming services.
The NFL is still king of television. Let's explain what this entire situation means. 83 of the top 100 broadcasts last year were NFL games, but the way fans watch is changing fast. This investigation could force the NFL to rethink how games are distributed. It could impact future TV and streaming deals and potentially lower or raise even more the cost for fans. And at the same time, tech companies like Amazon are already eyeing bigger prices, including possibly streaming a future Super Bowl. So the question is the NFL becoming too expensive and fragmented for the average fan to follow? To me, I think this is getting out of hand in a greedy side of all of these entities. And it's not just the NFL. I mean, this is all leagues and this is all levels of life where everything is on a subscription. And people are hurting right now trying to find, ways to make ends meet. And here's what a lot of these entities don't understand. Yes, they continue to raise money, but eventually people are going to stop paying for it because it's going to come between them eating and them paying for a house and then watching the NFL. And eventually it's going to price out more people. The reality is people are the market's eventually going to reset itself. But if people are still willing to pay for all of these streaming services, the NFL and all these other leagues and all these other entities of life are going to keep asking for more.
Especially Major League Baseball, because they're starting to get in on this as well. They have games on Netflix now. They have games on Peacock now. They have games on Apple TV now. So granted, they do have a lot more games that they can distribute. It's still, though, you're starting to see more and more of those big marquee matchups getting stuck behind paywalls, and you're losing. And think of, me, I'm not a big fan of the Yankees. But for Yankee fans, you have the Yes Network, My Nine, which is typical standard television. Now you have every Friday night behind the paywall of Amazon Prime. You've got almost every Sunday night game that was on ESPN. You have NBC games this year. You have Netflix games starting this year as well, plus the games that are stuck behind Apple TV. Just to watch the Yankees, just to be a Yankee fan, you need to have 8 or 9 different subscriptions, including cable, in order to just watch your team play. So if this goes well for the DOJ with the NFL, they're going to go right to baseball next. I have a strong feeling.
I think you're going to start going to all these leagues. I think they're going to cash in on all of these streaming services. And college conference contracts are up in 2030. And they're going to get the same kind of treatment as a lot of these other leagues. And they're going to keep asking for the same thing. And here's the deal. Like, I'm somebody that pays for, we pay for Red Zone. And, Red Zone I think it's better than Sunday Ticket. Because I used to watch Sunday Ticket here. And it would work out because it was great to be able to watch the Chargers when I was living in Texas. And then, at that time I was in college. So my dad was watching all the other games. He could flip back and forth. Now without the Chargers, there's no reason for us to have Sunday Ticket. But with Red Zone, you don't even get all the games anymore, right? You pay for the Red Zone channel, you pay for Sunday Ticket. It's like, well, those don't include the streaming games. Those just include the ones that are on television. And you are continuing to pay more and more money for Sunday Ticket and for Red Zone, and you're getting less and less inventory because all the streaming sources are now chiming in to pay for things. It works for my family because everybody has their own little subscription fee, but everybody's paying for one platform, so we must have it somewhere.
Yeah.
But for most families that are have small kids or whatever, you're not paying for all of these. It's too many of them, right? There's too many of these to be able to consume. And again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's a lot of pros and cons of every types of economics, if you will. The pros of capitalism is eventually people are just going to not pay for things. They're just be like, I'm not paying for this anymore. And then the price will go down. The cons are you get a lot of leagues that are very greedy. And so these leagues are going to continue to feast off greed. And as long as people are paying for it, they're going to keep going up. So the fact that the DOJ wants to get involved, I'm all in favor for. I'm tired of having sports price people out on this entertainment deal, especially since the other thing, too, it's not like the people that work in these sports are making tons of money. It's the owners of the league. And I guess a chance to go away with Weezer on their Weezer The Gathering tour. Get hooked up with flights, a 2-night hotel stay, a pair of tickets to see Weezer, plus a meet and greet with the band and a signed set list thanks to Live Nation and Crush Music. And all you have to do to enter is listen to us on the Odyssey app. Download the free app, create your account, favorite our station, and listen for an hour to get your daily entry and come back each day for another chance to win. This is a national contest. All right. Frank, we didn't have time to talk about this last week, but Dennis Lin had an article, or he does his mailbags where he answers a lot of questions. And he had a part 1 and a part 2 that he talked about last week. And a lot of it was some, overall general topics about this Padres team that we haven't discussed yet that we want to dive into. And the big picture about this entire mailbag is, this isn't really about April. It's about the future of the Padres. Yes, the Padres, just were able to rip off 5 straight and have put themselves in the second best record in Major League Baseball, tied with the Atlanta Braves in the National League and not too far behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. But the questionnaire that was asked to Dennis Lin is all the information about, ownership, direction, and identity. Franchise in transition at the top, obviously, with new owners, potentially. Now, the ownership battle, if you will, as what we have been told. Dan Friedkin, Tom Gores, Jose Feliciano, and Joe Lacob. Those are the 4 finalists for this particular sell of the team. Dan Friedkin is a global soccer and FSG style model. He owns a handful of soccer teams. He's originally from San Diego. Tom Gores, private equity guy, owns the Detroit Pistons. He also owns 27 or a small percentage, if you will, of the Los Angeles Chargers. I think it's like 25 to 27%, something in that range. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. Jose Feliciano tied to Chelsea FC. And Joe Lacob has built the Golden State Warriors dynasty. So those are the 4 final bidders for the San Diego Padres. All of these entities, as noted in the article, are way richer than the current ownership structure. They are corporate portfolio builders and, competitive win now culture setters, if you will. This is a huge asset for these guys, obviously, and it's going to be a record sale. But all 4 of these entities have professional sports franchises already, and these are owners that have the kind of money that this is kind of a toy more than anything else. It's not an additional business asset, if you will. So I think from that perspective of who could potentially buy the Padres, puts the Padres franchise in a good spot for the future. And that's also talking about, like, there's a lot of, a lot of the conversations and questions asked to Dennis Lin in this deal was all from a negative standpoint of, like, is the team going to move, or, like, are they going to immediately rebuild and all this other stuff. I don't want to dive into that, but I do find this interesting when they talk about the Dodgers elephant in the room. And the article that written by Dennis Lin references the Los Angeles Dodgers model of spend aggressively, stockpile talent, and exploit the current system advantages before the rule changes. Now, the future CBA could include a salary cap and a salary floor, which means this could be the last window to outspend and go all in, not only for the Dodgers, but also for the Padres based on what could potentially happen. I think the way this sets up could potentially set the Padres up for a big trade deadline. I think it could set up for an offseason that's very interesting for the San Diego Padres, especially to get things in before a potential CBA. But a lot of these topics of conversation when it comes to ownership groups for the future of the Padres, based on, like, where the league is shifting towards with a new CBA, based on who is looking to buy the Padres, I think it's hard pressed to disagree that this is a Padres franchise that this is the right time to be a Padres fan, because I think all things are trending in the direction and things are coming up brown and gold, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that the new ownership, depending upon when they take charge or when they start, telling the current ownership what to do, of, yeah, go get this guy, go get that guy, we'll pay it, and this, that, and the other thing. It depends on when they take over, if it's going to be in time enough to be able to get some of those moves or some of those signings done. I think locking in some long-term pieces that are here, I think would also be a smart move. There are a couple of guys that I'm sure you'd like to lock down here to make sure they're ready to go and they're going to be Padres for a long time. And then going out and getting somebody, getting different players and new people from new places. So we've said it from the very beginning that nothing about this sale, the extraordinary circumstances surrounding it, and the extraordinary people that are finalists for this, nothing screams this is going to turn south quick. We are going to accelerate what has somewhat slowed down over the last couple of years of spending and trying to get this team into a position to be successful. So I'm really not concerned whoever comes in to own this team. I'm really not concerned at all. And I think they will take, again, depending upon when the sale goes through, I think they will take every advantage and every opportunity under the current rule set to be able to make this team a contender for the long term.
I think all four of them, and we've mentioned this before, I think all four of them have an interesting storyline that I think benefits the city of San Diego. Dan Friedkin's from San Diego, is the heir of PSA Airlines. He owns a handful of soccer teams. I think having a San Diegan own the team, I think, is very interesting. And he might, to me, I think that's a good asset to have. Not the only asset, because I think every one of these guys has a lot of favorable things if you're a Padres fan. Tom Gores, his interesting storyline, of course, is the fact that he lives in Los Angeles. He owns the Detroit Pistons, but also that he owns a small percentage of the Chargers. And there's more interesting stuff about that I'm going to talk about in the next segment. But he's interesting from that. I'm just a guy asking questions a lot, Frank. Just a guy asking questions who might know some answers, but just asking questions. Jose Feliciano, his ties to Chelsea and his ownership of Chelsea paired with the ownership group that owns the Dodgers also owning Chelsea, I think is interesting. The headbutting that might go in, the kind of rivalry that's already built in with the Padres and Dodgers, and also a guy that's got a ton of money. I think that's an interesting storyline. And then Joe Lacob, of course, the interesting thing is building the Golden State Warriors dynasty. I mean, Joe Lacob's been part of most of their championships up in the Bay Area, so I also find that interesting. But there's something else that I want to talk about with Tom Gores. And I think all of these potential candidates have interesting storylines, if you will, that all benefit the Padres. I don't think there's a lot of negatives to these four bidders, but there's something that I was told the weekend that I find very interesting. And I'll tell you about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. College sports is changing fast, and Cal might be showing us the future. The California Golden Bears are laying off up to 25 staff members, not because they want to, because they have to. They're dealing with a $24 million deficit, rising costs, and less TV money after leaving the Pac-12. So what's their solution? A complete reset in their athletic department. They're launching something called Strawberry Creek Studios, turning their entire athletic department into a content and revenue machine, not just promoting sports, but selling them, producing them, and monetizing it at a whole new level. And honestly, this might be where college athletics is headed. With NIL, revenue sharing, and realignment shaking everything up, schools aren't just competing on the field anymore, they're competing financially. The question is, can programs like Cal adapt fast enough to survive, or is this the beginning of a bigger divide in college sports? This week in college athletics, one of the most telling stories about the future of the industry isn't happening on the field. It's happening behind the scenes at California and the Golden Bears athletic department. The department is undergoing a massive internal shakeup, laying off potentially 25 staff members across marketing, communications, and creative services. That's a significant portion of the people responsible for telling the story of Cal sports.
Yeah, and it's not just cost cutting, it's complete restructuring. Cal is launching something called Strawberry Creek Studios, which they described as a shift from traditional promotional model to a full-scale content and revenue engine, with the goal being to drive money and create a more authentic storytelling system in a rapidly changing college sports landscape. So, I mean, this is really driven out of financial pressure and more or less desperation somewhat.
Yeah, this is definitely a financial move. Cal is staring at a $24.3 million shortfall, combined with ongoing debt from stadium renovations and reduced media revenue after leaving the Pac-12 conference for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Add in rising travel costs, coaching salaries, and a new era of NIL plus revenue sharing. Schools are being squeezed from every angle, and Cal isn't alone. Across the country, programs are trying to figure out how to survive, and in some cases, stay relevant. Schools like the University of Kentucky are getting proactive, even restructuring into new business models to prepare for paying athletes directly. But here's the key difference. Kentucky's trying to scale up. Cal is just trying to stay afloat. And that brings us to football, the engine that drives everything. Cal brought in Ron Rivera as general manager to modernize the program. And after moving on from Justin Wilcox, they've handed the reins to Tosh Lapoy, a high-energy recruiter who's already building buzz. The hope is simple: win games, generate revenue, and stay naturally relevant before the next round of conference realignment hits. Because make no mistake, college sports is no longer about wins and losses. It's about business survival. I mean, just wait for private equities who have started to invest in money into athletic departments, see what they do. As somebody that works firsthand in college athletics, I will say the people that are getting cut in these jobs are very important to how the game is presented and put on. And these people already don't make any money. Working in college athletics is incredibly difficult because there's no money in it. There's really no money in it. So every time I hear people complain that athletes aren't getting paid and everybody's making money off of them, they're not. Maybe it's the school president who's making money off of all the kids at the school anyway, if you want to get into the weeds. I mean, we talk about like medical hospitals for schools are making money off of free labor. All that. You want to play that game, fine. But the reality is most people that work in college athletics that are professionals are already not making any money. And you know what they're doing? They're getting rid of these people. They're getting rid of sports and information directors. These are the people that have to report things for NCAA record holding. And these people are getting replaced to tell a better story. How do you trust anything coming out of any of these schools if this continues to go that way, to try to make everything based on money? Now, you want to talk about subscriptions like we talked about the NFL? Do you think that this content's going to be free content on social media from these universities, from Strawberry Creek Studios? Are you kidding me? This thing's going to be all about money. These are the repercussions, Frank, to paying teenagers money to play a sport.
It's not even that. It's also self-inflicted out of Cal because they didn't have to move out of the Pac-12 to go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And one of the things that they're saying is rising travel costs. That's self-inflicted. You chose to do that. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to pick a predominantly East Coast conference to go to. So rising coach salaries, that is what it is. NIL revenue sharing, yeah, that's going to affect everybody. But seriously, part of that $24.3 million, the university has to look at themselves and go, yeah, we kind of did that one to ourselves.
Yeah, but they also would be making way less money if they didn't do that. I mean, that's the other alternative. It was like you got left behind. You could be Washington State and Oregon State. What are they doing right now in college athletics? Are you better off right now as Cal or Oregon State?
They're power conference.
They're not power conference.
Act 12. The P stands for power, dude.
Cal is making way more money and is more relevant in sports than Oregon State and Washington State right now because they made that move. Unfortunately for them, that's the decision that got made because USC and UCLA wanted to be big shots and wanted $100 million. I don't blame Cal and Stanford as much as I blame USC and UCLA. And at the end of the day, it's really Texas and Oklahoma. And Texas is a school that can actually afford to do all of this crazy stuff, where schools like Cal can't. You start breaking down the revenue of all of these athletic departments. Again, I was being told everybody was making money. Everybody was making money off of the poor college kids that were getting scholarships. Everybody was making money. Yet all of the financial reports that come out, aside from like the University of Texas, no athletic department is making any type of profit. In fact, football is the only thing that makes any type of revenue. And they have all of these sports that are bleeding money. So you think this is a problem? Like it's going to start with this. And then we got some interesting trending stories that we're going to get to on the sports thread in just a little bit. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. We are the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Want to mention that all of our guests join us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not big bank banking. It's better. All right. Here's some interesting information that I got over the weekend. And I'm not going to give out everything that I heard over the weekend, but I do find I'm just the guy asking questions. You know, I find it interesting the Tom Gores situation with potentially buying the Padres. Again, he lives in Los Angeles. He owns the Detroit Pistons. He's also a small minority owner of the Chargers. He bought a certain percentage in 2024. I got to look up how much he actually owns. Because I think it's a little interesting that he just bought some of the Chargers stake. I think a lot of people are not. He owns 27% of the Chargers. Now, if anybody heard the other day on one of the podcasts, it was like Derek Togerson, and he said that Tom Gores was able to buy the Pistons kind of the same way. He kind of infiltrated and then ended up buying a lot of the shares, and then eventually bought all the shares of the Pistons. I don't. People immediately want to go oh, he's like boys with Dean Spanos. Right? I don't necessarily think that's the case. I really don't. Now, he bought 27% of the Chargers for $750 million. He bought the Pistons kind of the same way, where he had a small percentage of them and eventually took over. Has Dean Spanos paid any money of the relocation fees? I've seen a lot of articles. Google search that. Google search whether or not the Chargers have spent any money on relocation fees yet. Because how much money did they owe? Do you remember off the top of your head, Frank?
It was $600 million, was it not?
$650 million they owe to all the other owners. If you Google search that, it says the payments are expected to start in 2019. That was in an article in 2017. Oh, and then they was they don't have to pay until 2020. Is it possible that they haven't paid any of that yet? I'm just a guy asking questions. I might know the answer to that. Now, is it also possible that that full amount eventually has a due date? And is it possible that that could be coming up very soon? I'm just asking questions. And could it potentially be a problem for all the other owners if they don't get the $650 million that they were all supposed to split? That was the whole part of the deal. Let's help Dean out by moving to LA and we're going to get our compensation back and $650 million. I don't know about you, but usually people that end up making billions of dollars, do they just allow people to just not pay them $650 million, Frank? Does it usually work out like that?
No, it ain't. And usually when you mess with the bag, that's usually when you're out. So if they haven't paid anything, that would be very, 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 very bad for the Spanos family.
Right. Be very, very bad.
Since they are the principal owners of the team.
Correct. And so, there could be some repercussions from the other owners, I would imagine, right? Theoretically. Could that potentially lead to maybe a small percentage stake owner taking over said team? Like he might have done in Detroit. It's just the guy asking questions. I'm just asking questions. There's new development down in Chula Vista. Just asking questions.
It's very creative by Go Aztecs in the chat.
It's possible.
The result that he got to, which was, are these questions leading to him buying the Padres, buying the Chargers, and bringing them back to San Diego?
I think those are all hypothetical questions. But I'm just saying, if you just think about it from a standpoint, let's just take him out of it. If you were a wealthy businessman,
mm-hmm.
and you owned, and you could live wherever you want,
mm-hmm.
and you like sports and you own sports teams, or you want to own a sports team, wouldn't you want to have your sports teams in the place that you kind of live? That's a really great.
Would probably be a little helpful.
Yeah. I just, again, I'm not, and here's the deal. I want to make this clear. This is not this is going to happen. But
we're asking questions.
I'm asking questions. I think there's a lot of interesting, this is if you perk up to this, conversation that we had on opening day about the connections. If you look at it from a positive standpoint, it's the path is there. If you look at it from a negative standpoint, you go, he's affiliated with so-and-so. But I got some information over the weekend. It might be some answers to some of the questions that I asked. Which ones? You're a guess. But that's why I find it to be very interesting about that situation. The fact that that's how he took over, that's how he was able to buy the NBA team that he owns. The fact that he just recently acquired a small percentage, albeit more than a quarter of the team. Interesting that there could be a conversation about whether or not relocation fees have been paid and whether or not there's a due date. Maybe at the end of the year. Something to monitor. Let's get to the sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Frank. Speaking of questions,
yeah, we got
questions today.
We got some tea today, is what we got.
I love the tea. Gotta love the tea.
This one slipped under my radar at least yesterday with everything that was going on. The Athletic has launched a reinvestigation into NFL sideline reporter Diana Rossini.
Nice.
Following newly surfaced more questions about her relationship with Mike Vrabel, head coach of the New England Patriots. The review comes after photos published by the New York Post appeared to show the two in close personal interaction at a resort in Arizona, prompting scrutiny over potential conflicts of interest in Rossini's reporting. While the Athletic initially defended her and cited missing context, stating the interaction occurred in a group setting, the outlet has since acknowledged additional concerns and placed Rossini on leave during the investigation. Both Rossini and Vrabel have denied any inappropriate behavior, calling the situation misleading as the media company continues its internal review with no clear timeline for resolution. How important is perceived objectivity in sports journalism? And should personal relationships with sources impact a reporter's credibility?
I think it does. I mean, what are we doing here, right? I mean, are we actually reporters or are we just doing whatever? Did you hear Buster Olney today on a radio show on ESPN New York?
No.
He talked about this, and it's pretty glaring, and we should play it on the other end.
Okay.
Because he talks about the quid pro quo of reporters right now with agencies, of reporters right now in the game with players and organizations. And if I give you this scoop, try to finagle this so it makes it sound better for us. But you get it first. How much of that is going on? How much can you actually trust any type of like journalism now? Again, this is why I'm not a journalist, nor have I ever claimed to be a journalist. I say that all the time when I speak to classes. I am a broadcaster and an entertainer. I'm not a journalist. That doesn't mean we don't have journalistic integrity, but we're not journalists. We're entertainers.
Yeah,
but for journalists and reporters and everything like that, you need to have some credibility. Otherwise, people are going to believe what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think this Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel situation that could have started as like, and I've heard rumors now about like it's an undercover investigator and all this other stuff and whatever it may be. I just, that whole story is crazy to me, and it might be the tip of the iceberg of what's going on in National Report for things.
I mean, and there was talk about her being in a relationship with David Wright when like she was just starting out, and Wright was one of the big things in sports, which turned out to be ridiculous. But it's a really, really interesting story for sure.
Number 2.
Baltimore Orioles manager Craig Albernaz.
Hey, Birdland.
Hey, Birdland.
He said bye to Birdland last night as he was struck in the face by a line drive, but avoided serious injury and returned to celebrate the dramatic 9-7 comeback win over the Arizona Diamondbacks. The ball came off the bat of Jeremiah Jackson, who later hit a pivotal grand slam to spark Baltimore's rally from a 6-run deficit. That is not a good premise to set. Is if I hit my manager in the face, I'm going to hit a grand slam. That's not great.
Let's not do that.
Albernaz was taken for evaluation and will undergo precautionary scans, but he was in good spirits and even shared an emotional hug with Jackson after the home run. The moment highlighted both the scare in the dugout and the strong clubhouse chemistry during a memorable comeback victory. How can moments like this, mixing adversity and emotional connection, impact team chemistry over a season? Precedent was the word I was looking for.
How much does a team's health and performance staff influence success? Was that the one you had?
Well, how can moments like this, mixing adversity and emotional connection, impact the team's chemistry over the season?
It helps sometimes. It's not, but these guys are pros. This is more for like college and high school, I would think. I mean, the professionals know how to go out there and compete every single day. They don't necessarily need a little emotional jump. It could help though. It could definitely help a little bit, but it's not like, I don't think the Padres need to go out there and punch Craig Stammen in the face for emotional support. I'm just, I don't think they need
to ask you questions.
Are you suggesting like they had tragedy strength last night?
Hey, Birdland, hit the ball over the wall and not into my face, please.
I hate that it happened to him too, because we made a drop out of his Hey Birdland.
Hey, Birdland.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully he recovers quickly. Orioles able to get the win last night.
Bye, Birdie.
When we come back, some more tea on that Diana Rossini conversation.
To the ballparks from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
New Lunchtime Hour of the Fan is brought to you by the Craft Taco. It is Taco Tuesday, if you will. Bold flavors, 2 locations, Sereno Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum.
I'm waiting for the tacos. Where are the damn tacos at?
Where are the tacos at? I need some Craft Taco. I need more Craft Taco in my life. I think everybody needs more Craft Taco in their life. And as we mentioned before, getting down to Balboa Park is hard, difficult, whatever. But if you're in that area, South Park, North Park, University Heights, City Heights, you're just an easy delivery app order away from bringing Craft Taco to your place right now. While you watch us on TV, get the full experience of the noon hour. Make it to go order. Get the delivery apps going. Get Craft Taco to your house or your office now. They got some great tacos. Now I'm hungry. Thanks for that. All right. Before we went to break, we asked a lot of questions. But then we got into the sports thread and the diet. We haven't really talked about the.
And then we had some tea.
Yes.
And now have more questions.
Now, a lot of the questions that we asked before the tea questions were actually tea questions in themselves. But that being said, we haven't really talked about the Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini thing at all because was that last week?
That was over the weekend.
That was over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's why we haven't been able to talk about it. We've been so into Padre baseball and everything like that. I found those pictures to be awkward, to say the least. So that was definitely, I think it was like last week. We've been just so busy with Padres baseball that we haven't been able to talk about it. But the things start to trickle out even more. But the Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini thing, just on the surface of like those pictures coming out, is like very bad in a lot of different ways. But when I first saw those pictures, the ones with them like laying at the pool, like this is the meetings, right? This is like some type of NFL meetings in Scottsdale, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay, so they're all out there and they're doing their thing. I mean, you saw like Jay Glazer's partying with like the coaches. They do the usual. They had this like a media coaches like barbecue thing, whatever. I mean, so they're out there doing that stuff.
Yeah, it's the league. The league meetings were in Scottsdale from March 29th to April 1st.
So them being in the pool, it's like, all right, she's trying to do a job. Okay, I get it. But then you got like the other ones too. It was like, what are we doing with what are we doing with this? Okay, what's with the hand holding? I mean, the hug is like, I think the hug is somewhat harmless. I think it's probably unprofessional to do that in a line of work per se. But then everything started coming out from like all these old things with Diana Rossini. It's just not great. I don't like the way it's not a great look for Diana Rossini. And I understand, like we were talking about this off air, like Jeff Pearlman, talked about the differences and the double standard for it, women reporters than men reporters, right? Like if you had a men's beat writer, like a male beat writer for, any team, and he's out there trying to, get information and do some interviews and everything like that at these meetings. And, they go like, hey, my back's a little sore. I need to go in the hot tub. Like, yeah, just come over here with me and we'll knock this out. You think nothing of it. Or, hey, like, I'm going to be hanging out at the pool, and you go sit next to them at the pool, you're going to think nothing of it.
They weren't next to the pool. They were in the pool.
They were
on loungers in the pool.
Yeah, I still don't think that that's crazy in this day and age of trying to get information. I mean, who knows what these reporters are doing? Them laying next to each other in the pool is not crazy to me. The hand holding is crazy to me. But anyway, if you see Jeff Pearl down there and he's sitting in the lounge chair next to Mike Vrabel in a lounge chair, whatever, they're just at the pool during the meetings. Nobody's really freaking out about it. They go to dinner to get information. Hey, come to dinner with me, whatever. We'll knock this out. Think nothing of it. But now with like a woman reporter, there's going to be a lot of questions being raised, which puts even more pressure on Diana Rossini to like make sure you are extra. She has to be extra careful. Yet she still finds herself in this situation that she has now put herself into. Now, whether or not there is an affair or not, a lot of these are very unprofessional photos, if you will. But the reality of the situation is like there's a lot of questions to be asked of this. And we briefly discussed it in the sports thread, but I thought it was interesting today. Like Buster Only was on ESPN
This is with
New York with
DiPietro and Rothenberg.
And he mentions the conversation about reporters and quid pro quo and bending the truth for sources and how it's important for the industry.
I do hope this whole thing opens up a larger conversation about, you know, the potential destructiveness quid pro quo in our business. Because let me tell you something, it's as bad as I've ever seen. As someone who's covered the sport for a long time, you know, the other day I was having a conversation with an executive of a team who said, "Yeah, when I read a story and I can connect all the dots. You know, this person, this reporter has a relationship with this agency, and here's how the truth is being bent because of that relationship." And that, man, I see it too. Like I'm aware of what's going on behind the scenes, and I think that's the cost of all this, right? When you have these situations, and I'm not just talking about, you know, potentially personal relationships. I'm talking about just sort of the understanding. Hey, if I give you this, quote unquote scoop, then you can bend the number this way, or you can bend the truth this way. It kind of reminds me, it's as if I'm a player, you know, who is in the middle of the 90s steroid era, where you're looking around going, come on, with some of the stuff that's happening. And, you know, the people who suffer for it, of course, are the viewers, the listeners, because they don't have the context in the way that, you know, someone like me or the executive I was talking with has about what's going on behind the scenes. And I really hope it's something that gets, scrutinized here as we move forward.
I find it to be very interesting. I immediately think of like interesting tweets that have been sent out in baseball on rumors and stuff, right? When you hear that from Buster Only. But that's just like what's going on, like on all these different situations to get inside information. And these are like, Buster's not even talking about the personal relationships. To go back to the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel situation, Diana Rossini, high profile NFL, this is for people that might have missed it, but I doubt it. Diana Rossini, who is a high profile NFL insider for the Athletic, is under an internal investigation now from the Athletic. The situation stems from photos published in the New York Post where Rossini and Mike Vrabel, who's head coach of the New England Patriots, were seen embracing, interlocking fingers, and spending time together at a resort in Sedona. Both Rossini and Mike Vrabel are married. The Athletic's response was their initial reaction. Executive editor Steven Ginsburg defended Rossini publicly, claimed photos were misleading, lacked context, and taken in a group setting. Then, Front Office Sports reports reinvestigation launched, and the current status is Rossini has been pulled from reporting duties, and investigation is ongoing and open-ended. It's a very big conflict of interest. Was Rossini reporting on Mike Vrabel? Was Rossini breaking Patriots-related news? Did the relationship influence access? Did it influence reporting tone? Did it provide unfair competitive advantage? I mean, these are all things that now come into question with Diana Rossini's reporting. And Rossini's position, one of the highest paid insiders at The Athletic, her contract expires this summer. And she's known for breaking NFL news, strong front office relationships. And from Mike Vrabel's side, obviously, he has not publicly addressed the media yet. He's expected to speak next around the NFL draft. I'm sure he will love to have that press conference, Frank, because he wants to just stick to draft questions. But he's obviously a central figure in the Patriots rebuild and league-wide reporting cycle. Now, there's obviously a lot of optic problems to these photos. I mean, the public perception is credibility damage, and the photos suggest personal familiarity beyond professional norms. And you get that credibility gap. But I just see like this to me is just like the tip of the iceberg on this particular situation. And I feel like you start looking back at a lot of the interviews that Dianna Russini has done at Radio Row at the Super Bowl with radio shows, a lot of the conversations she's had about her own marriage and these deals and even things that she's been accused of by NFL teams, employees' wives that we saw when it was with the Commanders that she ended up deleting after the fact about how Dianna Russini was getting personal information. Frank, this is a I don't see how this works out for Dianna Russini.
I don't see it either, and I think even if it turns out that this is nothing, you've now sparked this up. You've now had two similar complaints against you now with two different organizations, not just with where she's working, but also with teams that she's supposed to be covering. I don't see, she won't go away. I'm sure there'll be some independent stuff. There'll be a podcast or something that comes out, but I don't see how this, again, even if she's cleared of any wrongdoing in this case, I don't see how she gets another major job in sports journalism after this.
Yeah, I think she has threaded a needle here, and we don't even know if they. We don't even know. I mean, if they are having an affair, but the pictures don't look very good. And I just, at the same time, it's like I don't know how you could say like the interlocking finger hand holding is ridiculous to me.
To me, I get the hugging thing.
The hug is fine,
but I get it.
Embracing with the finger, like
for me,
I've never embraced anybody like that.
There are different types of hugs. If you're a friend, someone, it's usually just the side deal.
Very soft
right?
hug.
Yeah, it's the side, like the quick, soft, quick over the shoulder. He has both arms like up over her shoulders with that hug.
Yeah.
And they're in an isolated place looking at the sun. That to me is a little bit more than just the, oh, hey, thanks for some information kind of thing. The hug does look a little bit more than just, hey, thanks for hanging out kind of thing.
I'm telling I'm trying to say you pull up the picture of like them, the holding hands one.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
trying
great.
to, like the embrace of that is what throws it off. Just the hug itself without the hand holding thing, it's like, all right, well, they know each other. It's not that big of a deal. But how do you get to the position with the hand holding like that? That is a weird place. Like even if it was like if it was the end of the hug, or like you can't like start the hug like that. Otherwise you can't. It doesn't make any sense.
No, Augie, they were not at a Coldplay concert.
I saw that meme though.
Of course.
They threw that meme up there pretty quickly. But I find that you asked the question about the integrity of the journalism now. I don't find, like, people are just going to always have this stigma now for Dianna Russini, just like a lot of people that have been, even proven innocent in certain things, or, were never never faced charges or never charged for that, or never actually, everybody still thinks of that person in that particular light.
And that's why I say that even if she is found to be clear of any wrongdoing in this scenario, this is now twice with two organizations that she's had this issue with. It's the same issue. And again, a lot of it, because I completely forgot about everything with the Commanders until this story came back up. So now it's a question of what platform is she going to write for that's going to be willing to sign on with this? And if this were to happen again, all of that stuff gets brought back up again. And yeah, it's going to be, oh, she was found, she didn't have any wrongdoing in this. It still hurts. And that's why we say, you mentioned credibility at the beginning of this or during the last segment. We're not journalists, but we want to be right and we want to be as accurate as we possibly can because we want you guys to listen to us. And when we say something, we want you to believe it. We want to have that credibility, even though it's not technically our job. You lose all of that when it comes to this kind of stuff, which leads me to say, if she is going to be back in the public light doing any sort of journalism or anything like that, it's going to be on the independent scene. It's going to be her own personal podcast that she's going to do. Because if I'm right with the hiring process of ESPN or CBS or whoever, I'm not touching her with a 10-foot pole. That's just inviting an issue to hire her.
They have this quote from this article that talks about some people at the New York Times. Employees of the New York Times have reportedly been complaining that reporters at The Athletic operate, quote, under looser standards and rules. Meanwhile, the Rossini situation has struck a particular nerve because staffers fear it reflects a more broadly and more poorly for those at the company.
Yeah, and as we just saw a guy in the chat say, this sucks doubly because now it's going to start to rain down on other women reporters' credibility. I mean, that took, I wouldn't necessarily say the Aaron Andrews thing that happened years ago. I wouldn't say that necessarily knocked other women's reporters' credibility because it was an isolated incident with just her. But this definitely has that potential to say for other women to broaden that double standard that you brought up before, to highlight that double standard.
Yeah, I mean it's part of it. I get asked this sometimes at when I talk to TCU sports broadcasting school and when I talk to like career day people, like especially the women that are and the young women that want to get into this industry, they ask certain questions about this, and I always respond with, I don't know what it's like because I don't have to go through the same stuff you guys have to go through, and they're always going to have to face a different battle than men in this industry for a lot of different reasons. And that's an unfortunate thing for all the women that are doing things the right way, if you will. But here's the other thing too, like this could be a big nothing burger, but the stigma's still there, and now everybody just immediately has locked in on, well, it's supposed to be all women in this industry because that's what people like. That's what people like to do. They like to generalize.
Joel, the kid in the chat, brings up the Joy Taylor situation. That's different because she's not covering a team. She's in our business. She was on our side. So that is different to this. It doesn't paint women in this industry in a great light doing that either. But the credibility thing, that's more on the Rossini issue and not necessarily the Joy Taylor side.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too that sparks up that we're talking about. I mean, in 2015, Diana Rossini was accused on Twitter by Jessica McLaughlin about having an improper relationship with her husband, then Redskins general manager Scott McLaughlin, suggesting a quote trading favors for scoop scenario in the Business Insider article. This is in 2015.
Which is what Buster Olney was kind of insinuating with his comments. Not that, but the insinuation of the squid pro row.
Quid pro quo.
It's you don't remember Austin Powers Goldmember, do you?
I didn't watch that.
Okay.
No. Both ESPN and Rossini immediately denied those allegations, and eventually Jessica McLaughlin later issued a public apology stating, "I deeply apologize for the disparaging remarks. The comment was unfounded and inappropriate." Well, this is not the second time that you've seen something with here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. But we haven't really had time to talk about it. Today's Sports Thread and with what Buster Only was saying on a different radio show caused us to veer in that direction, if you will. When we come back, we are going to take a look at the power rankings in Major League Baseball, take a more broader look at Major League Baseball. We focused a lot on the Padres. We're going to talk more about Padres and Mariners later on in the show. That will be next on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. San Diego FC has a problem, and it's not talent, it's discipline. Another game, another red card. This time, Christopher McVey gets sent off early in the second half, and suddenly San Diego is playing a man down. Again, where have I heard this one before? That's now 6 red cards in their last 6 matches. At that point, this is no longer bad luck. We're starting to see a pattern with San Diego FC. And the worst part, they're still in these games. They're creating chances. Anders Dreyer is generating offense, but they can't finish. They just can't finish. And they can't stay composed. Minnesota's goalkeeper, Drake Callender, made some huge saves, but San Diego had their opportunities. They just couldn't capitalize. If this team wants to be a contender, this has to change immediately, because right now they're not losing to other teams. They're losing to themselves. Another loss, and the same story yet again for San Diego FC, Frank. It's becoming a pattern, and it's not a good one.
Yeah, no, it was a 2-1 loss to Minnesota United FC at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday night, marking another frustrating result in what is now a growing skid. And once again, it comes down to discipline. As you mentioned before, Christopher McVey sent off just seconds into the second half after picking up his second yellow card, forcing San Diego to play nearly the entire second half 10 with 10 men, a man down. That's now 6 red cards in the last 6 matches across all competitions. Let that sink in for a second. 6 red cards in the last 6 matches over all competition. That is an absurd amount of red cards to be getting.
When you talk about the game itself, I mean, San Diego FC actually started off strong. They struck early with a goal from Luca Bambino, making the 100th goal in club history, a milestone moment, obviously, for the young franchise. But defensive lapses quickly erased that momentum. Minnesota equalized off a header from Kyle Duncan, and then took the lead before halftime through Calvin Yaboa. From there, the story turned to one man, and that is goalkeeper Drake Callender. He was outstanding. Multiple point-blank saves, especially on Anders Dreyer, kept San Diego from getting back into the game. Even late in stoppage time, Callender slammed the door shut.
Yeah, and the bigger problem is it's not just bad luck at this point. It is what we have to call it, which is it's no longer a rough patch. It's a discipline crisis. Right now, what San Diego FC is facing: 6 red cards in the last 6 matches, multiple games playing a man down, 4-match winless streak across all competition, repeated late game struggles. It has been a big problem, and Captain Yepe Terveskov said it. Playing a man down makes everything harder, especially pushing forward to try to finish games. And it hasn't been San Diego FC playing a man down for the last 10 minutes. They've been losing these guys, in this case, early in the second half, but they've been losing these guys early in the first half as well, putting the team in trouble. So while we talk so much about the rest that this team got after the international break, it's all kind of been wiped away with how hard they've had to work for how long they've had to play down a man in these games.
Yeah, what's still working, though, and this is the frustrating part, is San Diego's still creating chances. Dreyer's dangerous every match. Midfield is generating looks. They're staying competitive even down a man, but moral victories don't show up in the standings. And right now they're beating themselves, and it's the back line. It's an inexperienced back line, but also it's not great when some of your veterans in the back line are also making these catastrophic mistakes. And it's something that is so easily fixable in terms of just playing a cleaner game of soccer. That is leading to, I think, even more frustration for San Diego FC fans.
Oh, absolutely. And this is you're going to see a little bit of people getting a little out of control here. This is the first time we've really seen a downturn in form and a downturn in production out of this squad in its very short history. There were some down and lull moments last year, but nothing as alarming as this. What you're seeing right now out of San Diego FC is a discipline issue that you don't see many teams have, and the ones that you do see aren't high up in the table. Those are the teams that are consistently having problems. So it'd be interesting to see how San Diego FC comes out of their first real rough patch in the history of the franchise.
The immediate focus is obviously simple. They got to stay disciplined. They got to finish chances, and they got to close out games because the talent is there. But if this continues, it won't matter. San Diego still has time to correct this, but the window is starting to tighten. Looking for a contestant for the Midday Sports Standoff. Again, if you take me down in some sports trivia in the next segment, you have an opportunity to qualify for a chance to win this month's grand prize, which is a pair of field level seats to Padres and Phillies on Memorial Day. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We are broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's Urban Sports Station 97 through the Fan. We had somebody in the YouTube chat, like as we went to break, say, why aren't we looking at Mike Vrabel's part of this? The question was not about, and we don't even know if they're having an affair or not. The question is not about who is having the affair and this being morally bad. The question is about journalistic integrity and being able to do your job with integrity, right? That's the whole point of this conversation. Like Mike Vrabel is a little bit different in this situation than the Diana Rossini report, because Diana Rossini has to report on things. She is a reporter and a journalist. They are both doing something very, very wrong, especially morally, because they're both married. Yeah. But it's not, this is a question about what the profession of Diana Rossini is right now, more so than, a football coach doing this. Like, football coaches dabbling in this is also not correct, but it doesn't give them an advantage in their job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not about whether, it's not saying that Rossini is morally wrong more so than Mike Vrabel if they are in fact having an affair, but it's about Rossini's profession and the credibility with her reporting and her ability to do her job. That's the main issue here. It's not morality, it's getting a leg up in your profession, which is not good either way.
No, it's not. By
the way,
neither of them are. They're both making a massive mistake by just being involved with this situation, and we still don't even know. Like, there's been like rumors about who took the photos and everything like that, but it's not. The issue is favors for sources, whatever those favors might be.
Yeah,
that's what the issue is.
Yeah,
it could be something even like it could be what like Bus Olney's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you this particular source if you spin it this way. Like, that is the problem.
Yeah, it's not about Rossini's worse than Vrabel in this situation, even though they're doing the same thing. It's her job.
Right.
To be impartial.
Correct. That's the conversation. It's not like whose fault is it for the breakup of these marriages and stuff like that. That's not the conversation we're having. Anyway, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to have an opportunity to take me down in some sports trivia to qualify yourself to win tickets field level for the Padres and Phillies on Memorial Day. I do want to get to the power rankings, but we only have a couple of minutes, so Maybe we do that in the 1 o'clock hour, perhaps.
Sure.
Let's kind of go back to this mailbag for Dennis Lin, because I talked about it more on the ownership side of things, but the conversation of like the Dodgers being the elephant in the room, we touched on that. You know, they again, a lot of the part one of this mailbag that he had last week was about negative questions that were like never happening. Like the team relocating. No, they're not going to do that. Like the team potentially rebuilding, or should I say reloading? Rebuilding compared to reloading. I mean, I don't, one of the fans, like, here's one that we could talk about. Somebody asked Dennis Lin about, like, are they going to, new ownership going to blow it up and build around Jackson Merrill? I think a lot of people forget the reality check of this organization right now.
Of literal checks that need to be paid.
But not only that, like the Padres are selling Petco Park out every night.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a massive revenue machine. That matters more than fans think, obviously. And what ownership will see is this is not a rebuild team. This is a premier product with star power. Like any new ownership's going to understand it. That's why do you think, like, this is the question that like everybody asks, like, well, why are the Padres going to sell for $3.5 billion, $3 billion plus? I don't know. Maybe the fact that they made like over $1 million in revenue on their City Connect jerseys on the first day of sales. How lucrative it is.
That's
how great their ballpark is. How the fact that they got the second best record in baseball right now. I mean, like, I feel like people are so used to being so miserable here, and they almost root for misery. Like they're like, let's go back to the good old days where we sucked, and we could just be miserable all together as a collective group. Wouldn't that be fun, guys? We all be miserable again.
You know what that's called?
What?
Being a windsock.
That's called, being a win. That's part of the windsock descriptions. I mean, like, come on. Anybody that I mentioned that is a finalist to own this team, that is worth billions upon billions of dollars, that are going to spend $3+ billion on an organization, why in the world would they jettison everybody off? Why in the world would they try to move the team? Why in the world would they mess with what they have? I mean, come on. Like, we have to have a more positive outlook on things. And that's why we bring this up. This is not complaining about the fans. People take that so personally. It's not complaining about the fans. We are part of the fans. It's trying to change the mindset that we don't have to be miserable anymore. This team is good. It is. We don't have to view things in a negative light. It could be a positive light. I think the way things are shaping up for the Padres, Frank, the future is bright in terms of what the CBA might look like, the money that's going to get changed in terms of TV contract, a general TV contract for all of Major League Baseball, which is going to help. Oh, and the fact that the four bidders for the Padres are not going to be people that just cut the team down to its studs and try to like flip it like you saw in the past. I think the days of those people buying teams is over, Frank.
Oh, 100%. You cannot, as a real estate mogul making tens of millions of dollars, you cannot afford to buy a Major League Baseball team anymore. You cannot afford to buy a sports team in the most case, especially in one of the big four sports. It is you have been priced out of that market. So you're going to get guys now who are serious about winning, that have enough money to be able to do it, have enough money to put into competition. And you look at a lot of the teams that are down in the dumps right now. A lot of them are still those family-owned, small-time real estate moguls that have the team and don't have a lot of money and don't put much into it. That the days of them owning teams are over. And
I think so.
They're looking to get as much money as they possibly can before they get out, but they need to put money into it in order to get money out of it.
I think you're the days of those, like as we mentioned before, the days of those ownership groups are over because it just costs too much money to run to buy and own these teams, and the ones that are going to do that are going to be the ones that want to do something with it. And for anybody that starts throwing out names of guys that currently do that, that family has owned those teams for a long period of time, right? A long period of time. But where the price is for the Padres is astronomically higher than what the Baltimore Orioles sold for. The Padres price has eliminated that base that could potentially do that. Now, we have an interesting report on the Padres to tell you about when we come back. That just came out in The Athletic. We will alert that to you when we come back and play our midday sports standoff. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number sports station, 97 through the Fan. San Diego baseball just had their most telling weekend of the season, and it showed exactly who they are right now. They open with a win behind Steele Murdoch, 17 strikeouts and a program record, absolute dominance. But then they lose an 11-10 game in extras after leading late and drop the series. That's the difference right now. They can compete with anyone, but they're not always finishing games, and that's what separates good teams from championship teams. So here's the question. Is UCSD still learning how to win, or are they ready to make the next step? Because if they figure it out, this team can, in fact, win the Big West, and that, no question about it. What happened this week? Well, it was a roller coaster week for UCSD, the Tritons baseball team, and honestly, one of the most telling stretches of their season. They opened the series against UCSB and the Gauchos with a statement 4-3 win, powered by an all-time performance by Steele Murdoch. 17 strikeouts. That's a program record and one of the top single-game marks in the country this season. He was dominant, 8 innings, no walks, complete control. At that point, UCSD looked like the best team in the conference, but then things flipped.
Yeah, Saturday they lost a wild 11-10 games in extra innings despite coming back from 5 runs down, hitting a go-ahead grand slam in the 8th inning, and leading after that. They just could not close it out. And on Sunday, the offense went completely quiet, a 3-1 loss, dropping the series to UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's the big story. Is UCSD hasn't really mastered yet closing games against the league competition. Where have we heard that story before? Throughout college baseball and softball in San Diego. They had a late lead Saturday. They lost it. They had strong pitching Sunday, no run support. And that's the difference between a first place team and a championship team. That's the difference between a first place team and middle of the road team, or a team that does not end up hanging a banner at the end of the year. And let's be clear. They're still 11-4 in the Big West, still near the top, but they've now seen they can dominate. We've now seen that they can dominate. We've now seen that they can compete, and we've now seen that they don't always finish the game. That matters when you're trying to win a conference.
Yeah, and that domination was Friday, competing Saturday, and then the weekend result was just not being able to get the finish that they needed. Now going over to softball, softball might be heating up after struggling early in conference play. They just swept a doubleheader, won the series against Cal Poly, and just put together one of their best stretches of the season with Malia Cherry now holding the Division I era home run record for Triton softball, and Callie Howard pitching a complete game shutout. So this team starting to figure out things late on the softball side.
What's coming up next for baseball? They now face a huge local matchup. They got a midweek test against the Aztecs, a baseball team that, again, has good pitching, but very inconsistent in terms of like who you're going to see on what given night. Then they go back to conference play, and this is where momentum either stabilizes or starts to slip for the Tritons. I mean, did this weekend prove UCSD isn't quite ready to win the Big West yet? I think they're close. I think they're really close. I think the talent is there. The pitching, especially Murdoch, is starting to be very elite. The offense can explode. We've seen that out of the Tritons this year, but they haven't been able to finish games a lot, and they leave a lot of runners on base. They have consistently, that's the one thing they've done consistently, is left runners on base. But championship teams do one thing consistently, and that's they finish games. So right now, UCSD is still learning that part. If they figure it out, they absolutely can win this conference. If not, they're a dangerous team that just falls short and tries to make a run in the Big West tournament, maybe.
I would say this is probably, of the 3 teams of San Diego State, of Toreros and now of the Tritons. I think this is the one of the trio that has the best chance at winning a conference and possibly going on further. They have been more the inconsistency is definitely there, but they have been more consistent than the other two. So I think if there's one team in San Diego that was going to advance and make a run at winning the conference, make a run at winning the conference tournament, it would be UC San Diego.
It's kind of like the conversation that we had on Monday during the show, and that was Walker Buehler and Armand Marquez. One, Walker Buehler had a higher floor, and Armand Marquez had a higher ceiling. I think the Tritons have a higher floor. I think they've been more consistent than everybody else. I think USD's got the higher ceiling, but it's just a matter of whether or not they can achieve those particular spots, and whether or not they're going to move on. But all three teams in town, San Diego State, USD, and UCSD, all have a pretty good chance of making a run. They also have a pretty good chance of falling apart late, which again has been really the subject of this week on our updates. All of our guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what just came down that impacts the San Diego Padres in a second. But we do want to get to our midday sports standoff. So without further ado, because we're going to get to that in a little bit, if you could take me down in some sports trivia, you will be qualified this month for a chance to win our monthly grand prize, which is a pair of field level seats to Padres and Phillies on Memorial Day. We'll see who can potentially take me down today. Let's get to today's midday sports standoff.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, he's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, Frank, who we got playing today?
We have Ryan in Wyoming playing today.
Wyoming.
Ryan, how you doing, bud?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. All right. So today's question, big reunion the Padres have had with Ty France over the course of this season. Well, Ty France used to be a Seattle Mariner. He was traded from the Padres to Seattle. Who were the other 6 players that were involved in the trade that sent Ty France to the Seattle Mariners? Ryan, you have the first guess.
So we're looking for the 6 that were traded to Seattle.
Well, no, the 6 that were all involved in the trade. We're going to do one at a time.
Okay. Well, then I'll start with Andres Munoz is one of the players involved.
Yes, Andres Munoz. Ryan is ready to go today.
I'm going to go with the player that the Padres got back, Austin Nola.
Austin Nola was on the other side of that trade. Ryan.
I can't think of his first name, but I believe his last name was Trammell. He's a young prospect at the time.
I'll give it to you. Taylor Trammell.
There you go. Taylor Trammell, yep.
Taylor Trammell. was the player in question. I will get one of the Padres players back, or the guys that got pivoted. Austin Adams.
Austin Adams, correct. Ryan, if you get this one, you guarantee yourself a tie,
Which means you
which
win.
is a win.
All right. And I'm gonna. You got me on this one.
You have a strike to give.
Come on.
Yeah, let's get a strike and see what he has.
All right, so you have a strike on you, so you can still tie at the very least.
I can't believe he called him Trailer Tremendous.
Yeah, well, hey.
Well, I know the next two. I'm going to go with former Padres catcher and former Padres Rule 5 draft pick, Luis Torrens.
Correct, Luis Torrens. And now, Ryan,
come on.
If you got it, sounds like Braden knows it, so you got to get it here.
He was a pitcher. Still is a pitcher.
Oh, man.
Pitched for Team Italy this year, as a matter of fact.
Wasn't Marinaccio, was it?
No. Don't guess him.
Yeah, Marinaccio would be my guess there if he's for Team Italy.
Pitched for Team Italy this year. Pitched for Team Italy this year.
No, Ryan, I'm sorry.
Darn it.
Braden.
Dan Altavilla.
Oh.
It was Dan Altavilla. Ryan, you gave up a heck of an effort there, but that is it. So the people involved in the trade that sent Ty France to Seattle, Andres Munoz, Luis Torrens, Taylor Trammell, Austin Nola, Austin Adams, and Dan Altavilla.
How about that?
How about that?
All right. Also, never mind. I'll tell you during the break. Not a bad question. This team is, the Padres and Mariners have made a lot of trades with each other in the past,
Yeah.
So, not surprised. All right, let's get to the Padres news. You see this Padres news?
I have not, no.
Okay. Padres news. Now, here's the latest news that came out with The Athletic. It was an article about by Patrick Mooney, Dennis Lin, Shahadev Sharma, and everybody's favorite journalist, Ken Rosenthal. There it is. Cubs, Padres among teams interested in free agent Lucas Giolito still. We have some other news in this article as well. But do you have the Lucas Giolito clip ready to go? Okay, so he's still a free agent. I think a lot of people were asking the question. Everybody's surprised he's still a free agent to the point that, like, Frank and I thought he actually signed in the middle of spring training multiple times. Like, oh, isn't he not available anymore? Nope, he's still available. Here is Lucas Giolito explaining why he's still unsigned on one of our Odyssey podcasts. Baseball Isn't Boring. Here's Lucas Giolito.
Why aren't you signed?
The last few months has been very strange to where, talks seem like they're heating up and then it's like, oh, okay, never mind. And so I just want to play for close to what my value is. Mm-hmm. Everything is based on these models now, right? Everyone uses projection and models and things like that to kind of determine, and like my agency does the same thing. So it's like, all right, cool. Give me something that's relatively close to that. And let's go and get it. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm coming here 6 days, 5, 6, 7 days a week, depending on where I'm at in my routine, and throwing live and staying ready. I'm kind of maintaining a pitch count around 75 each time I throw live, just so that when I get the opportunity, it's like, all right, cool. What do you want me to throw a game in AAA to get ready? Or do you want to put me right in for 5 innings? Like, I'll do whatever. I'm happy to do whatever once I get the opportunity to help a team.
So, interesting stuff out of Nick Pivetta. We're going to discuss this a little bit further in the 1 o'clock hour. I would imagine we're probably going to get some type of update on Nick Pivetta today when the media is back at Petco Park. It could be within the next couple of hours or so, if you will. But it says the Cubs in this article, it says the Cubs and the Padres are interested in Lucas Giolito potentially right now. But buried in that article was this portion, because they outline like what the Cubs play is. They outline what the Padres play is. They outline what could be some complicated, really, how do I say it? Like a complicated, for the Padres, like layers of approval, if you will. Because the team's up for sale, so they have to it's kind of complicated right now on how they're making massive financial decisions. Not to say that Lucas Giolito is going to be a gigantic financial situation, but he obviously has a number in mind that he wants to stick to. But buried in this article, when it talks about like the pros and cons of both the Padres and the Cubs potentially signing Lucas Giolito, it had this specifically about the Padres. But the need for San Diego to reinforce its rotation might be growing more urgent. Nick Pivetta, who exited Saturday's start with what was initially described as right elbow stiffness, likely will need time on the injured list to recover. That is the most information we have gotten out of Nick Pivetta since Sunday, Frank. Correct? Correct. Okay. So, a couple of things here. I think when you look at what the Padres have done in terms of loading up a bunch of arms for depth, I think they did that for a reason, because it kind of builds in the safety net for them going throughout the season to try to find something that works in the rotation, but also where one injury doesn't destroy your rotation for the majority part of the year. I think the Padres are also in a unique situation. Like, everybody that starts the season, in reality, I would imagine this to be the case. I think everybody that starts the season, Frank, is looking at trying to win the division, their respective divisions. I don't necessarily think anybody in the National League West, even though that might be their goal, I think the ones that understand to make the playoffs, that are playoff caliber teams, I think they understand, like, we don't want to lose a war of attrition to try to win the division, when in reality, we just got to get in the playoffs, especially with success a lot of wildcard teams have had. So if you're the Padres, and again, I do this every single year, you lay out what teams you're competing with for a wild card spot. The Padres are good enough to make the playoffs. They're battling for 3 spots in the postseason. You already know that each division is going to get represented by another team. So you start going through the list and you start comparing. The Padres are better than a lot of the teams you're competing with for a wild card spot. So they don't necessarily need Nick Pivetta throughout the year. They need him at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So you can have guys like Matt Waldron step in. You can have guys like Tristan McKenzie. You can have guys like, Griffin Canning's going to be part of this rotation eventually. They have that kind of set in. I think Lucas Giolito potentially being added to this team at the right price would be interesting. I do think that information about Nick Pivetta is a little telling, though. They were very coy about it on Sunday. I hope he's able to pitch still at some point this year. I think the Padres had the luxury of letting Nick Pivetta sit a little bit, so I don't necessarily think an IL stint is something that is going to be very telling, per se. But I think it'd be really, at this point, I don't even know why you would throw Pivetta out there for his next start. I know Craig Stammen was like, well, we don't really know. Like, he could potentially, there's a world where he might make his next start. At this point, I think it behooves the Padres to let him sit for a month and get and try to figure out your situation with Matt Waldron and Griffin Canning and Walker Buehler and Germán Marquez before you even think about bringing him back, even if it's best case scenario.
As far as Lucas Giolito goes, I think that's a determination you make depending upon, one, how long you think Nick Pivetta is going to be out, and number two, what you believe the quality is that's waiting to come off of the injured list or down the minor leagues. I don't think that Giolito is someone that the Padres need to get, especially when you're talking about having Matt Waldron come up and also Griffin Canning, who's ready to go. He just needs a spot to come up into. And so Giolito just fuddies that all up. I wouldn't worry about Giolito coming.
Well, the other thing with Giolito, too, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment. By the way, we got breaking news from The Athletic. That's not Lucas Giolito either. We'll talk about that also. 1 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show, broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. We're going to talk about this situation with the Padres in just a second. I do want to pass along, since we talked about it earlier in the noon hour, we have now a report on social media from The Athletic that doesn't involve the Padres. Involves something else, as a matter of fact. Found something we talked about, as a matter of fact. I want to get the full report here as issued by The Athletic on the Diana Rossini situation. So, according to Rob Motti, who is an AP senior NFL writer and Tampa sports writer, he put this tweet out in a letter sent Tuesday to Athletic executive editor Steven Ginsburg and obtained by the Associated Press. Diana Rossini said, quote, "I have covered the NFL with professionalism and dedication throughout my career, and I stand behind every story that I have ever published. When the page 6 item first appeared, The Athletic supported me, expressed confidence in my work and pride in my journalism. For that, I am grateful. In the days that followed, unfortunately, commentators in various media have engaged in self-feeding speculation that is simply unmoored from the facts. Moreover, this media frenzy is hurtling forward without regard for the review process The Athletic is trying to complete. It continues to escalate, fueled by repeated leaks, and I have no interest in submitting to a public inquiry that has already caused far more damage than I am willing to accept. Rather than allowing this to continue, I have decided to step aside now before my current contract expires on June 30th. I do so not because I accept the narrative that has been constructed around this episode, but because I refuse to lend it further oxygen or let it define me or my career." Diana Rossini has resigned from her position at The Athletic. Take that for what it's worth. Do with that what you will.
In completely unrelated news, new podcast starring Diana Rossini coming out in about a month. Completely unrelated news again.
That's kind of a foul.
He draws the foul.
It was a hard-earned foul, though.
I said it was unrelated.
It's just, I get it. But it's kind of a foul. Anyway, let's get back to this Lucas Giolito conversation. All right, so as we went to break in the last hour, there was a report in The Athletic that the Padres and the Cubs are interested in potentially signing Lucas Giolito. Now, I don't know if it's a kind of a red flag moment for the Padres pitching depth because Nick Pivetta is dealing with elbow stiffness. Now, in this report, it said that Nick Pivetta, I got to get the exact quote from it. Nick Pivetta, who exited Sunday's start with what was initially described as right elbow stiffness, likely will need time on the injured list to recover. Take that for what it's worth. We're going to probably get more information on him later on today. The rotation is already viewed as top-heavy and fragile, and now the Padres are actively looking at external help like Lucas Giolito. I don't know if they are now doing this. I'm pretty sure we heard the rumors of Giolito to the Padres at some point during the offseason.
Oh, it's been all offseason.
Right. That's always been kind of part of the equation. So, who is Lucas Giolito at this stage? He's a former All-Star, Cy Young level upside in the past. In 2024, he was 10-4 with a 3.41 ERA. He was solid but not dominant. He did not get a spring training. He is throwing approximately 75 pitches in bullpens. Take that for what it's worth. And he's likely weeks away from being ready. I wouldn't mind bringing Lucas Giolito on board for the right price and for added depth to this rotation. I'm totally on board with that. But it's not like Lucas Giolito is going to be part of this conversation, part of the rotation immediately. He's going to need time to build up and actually get in-game reps. He doesn't have any of those. He can try to replicate that all he wants. He is not going to be ready to just be thrown out there Major League Baseball games. He said it himself. He's like, he'll do anything. I'll sign. I'll go, do a rehab, whatever. I'll get built up in the minor leagues, do AAA starts, whatever. But I mean, he's a back end starter. He's an inning stabilizer. He's really a low risk upside play for the Padres if they can kind of strike gold with Lucas Giolito. And at this point, with every coming day, I think Giolito loses more and more leverage, Frank, of trying to hold out for a high number because it's just going to cost them in the long run.
Yeah, and again, I don't think that the Padres are in a spot where they need to get him. They have enough wait and sees down the minors that are waiting for this particular opportunity to add another one. And then in another month's time, when it comes down to possibly Pivetta coming back, possibly Musgrove even coming back, now you're adding Lucas Giolito to the same mix, and you're putting undue pressure on the guys at the back end of your rotation that have earned the spot to be there. So I don't see a need for the Padres to bring in Lucas Giolito, but to your point, the longer he waits, his price is coming down for sure, and he's losing leverage every day. But that's the calculated risk he's taking by not just signing with somebody and wanting to play for a competitor. That this is the risk that he's taking, and he knows that he's losing leverage as days go by.
I think he's getting a depth piece at the end of the year. I mean, I think it's built in to potentially, help solidify a rotation that has injury concerns that might have more throughout the year before you get to a potential trade deadline. I think AJ Preller has an opportunity here to potentially, really get Lucas Giolito under contract for something that's like team friendly. And when I mean team friendly, I mean a AJ Preller special where it's like $1 million up front, $20 million next year, right? Like whatever number he wants next year, opt-outs included, all that stuff. But what Lucas Giolito needs to be careful with is he needs to be careful not to turn himself into Dallas Keuchel. Because when Dallas Keuchel did this, he ended up making a ton of money, made a decent amount of money. But he never was really the same after he waited forever to sign. He came back, he was okay, wasn't built up, and it kind of really set it back. And after that, he was done.
And Lucas Giolito is a guy who's never lived up to his potential or his expected potential. Because remember, when he was coming up with the Washington Nationals, he was supposed to be the number 2 to Steven Strasburg. It was the 1-2. They have 2 aces lined up and ready to go. And it never materialized for Lucas Giolito. Went to the White Sox, spent some time with the Red Sox as well. So this is a guy who's already has kind of a negative stigma around him as that missed potential kind of guy. 31 years old. He's still at a viable age. But if you're signing him as depth, great. But if you're signing him to be anything more than that, you're taking a real risk. That's kind of your team is in a bit of a bind.
I don't think they are doing that because they would have done it by now if they really wanted to get an organization.
Yeah,
this is a depth piece ad for sure. And you know what? He kind of fits.
I didn't mean necessarily just the Padres. I meant any organization.
He fits the. You know what he does? He fits the symptoms of a pitcher that Ruben Niebla usually turns around. He does. He fits the symptoms of that. I mean, he has a 4.30 career ERA. He's had a couple of ERAs below 4. I mean, he kind of fits that mold of being able to unlock something with Ruben Niebla where you get him for a cheap price early. You're going to have to pay him a little bit late or do the opt-in, opt-out thing. I mean, there's ways to get creative with it, but I think he could help your team because this is the reality of the rotation. The Nick Pivetta situation is different. I'm going to get to that in a second, but the rotation reality going into the season was your top 3 are pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else was kind of a question mark. And Randy Vasquez, I think, was part of those question marks. He has played his way up to kind of replace that, be part of that top 3.
For sure.
But now you got the Pivetta elbow concern throughout the year, whether it's on the end of whatever it is. Injury history across the staff, the pitching staff, lack of really proven depth. You have a lot of depth. You don't really have a lot of proven depth. And so you kind of really need innings if you're the Padres. Now, they mentioned this in the article, some of the ownership complications, like the Padres being in the final stages of the sale creates spending hesitation. It creates approval layers because you got to get the stuff approved. It's kind of a weird. They're in a real weird situation right now. The Padres are, because they still have to go through the final round of bidding. Correct, right? You get like one more round of putting your bids in for the final round. Isn't that where we're at right now? And it sounds like something in April. Or this month.
Yeah, we've heard
could determine that, but they're in the weird part where they don't have they haven't picked anybody yet. There's still 4 potential candidates. You're trying to figure out what the current ownership still wants to spend as they work their way out. They spend more money. How does that affect? It's weird. Like they're in this weird purgatory of being able to add more debts to their, asset that they own. But the risk for the Padres right now is like you can't really wait too long because you are in competition with the Cubs, and the Cubs, like, they have their own problems. The Cubs are already over their luxury tax. They are willing to spend, but they're cautious about late signings, as mentioned in the article. Opportunity cost before the deadline, right, where they might be able to go find another piece. And like the Cubs are asking, is this worth it right now? And the Padres are kind of asking, can we even do this right now? And that's just because of like some of the hoops that they have to jump through to make this potential happen. Both teams definitely need another starting pitcher in their rotation, but both teams kind of have some issues they got to work out in order to make this thing happen. And, it makes the Pivetta situation part of this deal kind of sneaky huge because he was 181 plus innings last year. He got Cy Young votes last year. If injured long term, does he opt into well, you know what? Here's the other thing too. I forgot about this part of the contract. I didn't even realize this, but in Nick Pivetta's contract, like there's information about like what happens with his options if he misses a significant amount of time, which I think was said in this article. I had to go back and check. I'll have to double check that, but that could make the 2027 deal a club option for the Padres if that's correct. But anyway, you have financial implications with this Pivetta situation. You have incentive questions, risk management decisions. So it's a very interesting topic of discussion for adding Lucas Giolito. But to me, I think I really think Giolito being added to this team, to me, is a Band-Aid to a problem, not necessarily a solution.
Oh, and I agree with that. I don't really see... I don't see... It depends mostly... It depends on how long Nick Pivetta is going to be out. If you think if he's going to be out for months, then yeah, you might need that extra depth. It might behoove you to get a guy like Lucas Giolito. If he's only going to be out for a couple of weeks or possibly a month, you're fine with what you got.
Okay. So here's the contract part. So Pivetta's contract that he signed last year includes a provision that if he spends at least 130 consecutive days this season on the injured list because of a specified injury or related surgery, the deal then converts into a $14 million club option for 2027. Pivetta, who otherwise would hold a $14 million player option, spent a month on the injured list in 2024 because of an elbow flexor strain.
If that is the case, then basically you need this to be Tommy John surgery or bone spurs or something in order for it to convert over. I don't see if this is... The Padres know of the issue. They've said they've known of the issue. They're very well aware of it. And if it is just what he did in Boston, I don't see him being out for 4 months. Because that's effectively what it is. It's 4 months. He's
130 consecutive days on the injured list is a lot.
Yeah, it's got to be a surgery or Tommy John or something in order for that to be.
Throw it in Google. Just say 130 days from today. Just for case in point, like, because again, those are not games; those are just days. They have a lot of off days mixed in there.
Saturday, August 22nd.
So if he's out until August,
I would say probably 21st because yesterday he was off. Yesterday was off day, and then
they'd retroactivate it. They'll retroactivate it to like they can't do it the day he played.
So it'd be retroactive to tomorrow. So yeah, it'd be the 21st of August, which is easy for me to remember. It's my mom's birthday.
There you go. I think that throws another wrinkle into this though too, because now if you're like, let's say it's not like Tommy John to me is like the extreme.
Yes.
Okay. And we're not speculating that he might have it. We don't know what the injury is, but
no, we're just saying
that is like the worst case scenario would be something like that.
Yeah, and we bring it up. That would be something that he would need to have in order to miss that much. He's likely to miss that much time.
There's a lot of those. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I think there could be other elbow things that you can have and still pitch.
Oh yeah, like bone spurs and stuff like
There's a lot of different things that it could be. But now I think with that clause, if it's something that's super not serious, guess who's trying to come back as quickly as possible?
Yeah,
Nick Pivetta, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is why you put that into that contract. You already knew about the elbow deal. So, like, if it's a, season-ending injury, he can't opt into his contract. He's gone. Like they're not gonna take the club option, and you don't have to worry about paying him next year. And you move on and whatever. But there could be a situation where he battles the injury and he's on the injured list for a long time, and he makes it back in August and figures it out, and everything's good, and he competes, and then the Padres get him for $14 million next year. That's another possibility. This makes that situation a little bit more complicated. But to go back to Lucas Giolito, just to kind of like put a bow on this topic of discussion, I could see why the Padres are interested in Lucas Giolito. I really do. Obviously, with the circumstances that are abound. And, Walker Buehler and Marquez have been fine. They haven't been super great. I think you're looking for added depth if you sign a guy like Lucas Giolito. And the report is, if you're just tuning in, that the Padres and the Cubs have had interest in Lucas Giolito. Okay, fine. I think the best play right now for the Padres is it gives you an extra opportunity to see what you have in Matt Waldron, German Marquez, and Walker Buehler. And I know for a lot of people that you understand, like we know what you're going to get at Matt Waldron. The only thing that makes me skeptical about that is the fact that his velocity is up. He's made some changes, right? So I think you have to see, he's looked really good in AAA right now. I think you have to see him at the major league level. And I think with this closing of the door with Nick Pivetta for who knows how long, it opens the door to here's your opportunity now to evaluate what you got out of these three guys to make a more accurate and better decision than you would. So instead of phantom ILing somebody or cutting one of Walker Buehler or German Marquez to see what Matt Waldron's got, you now can see all three of them perform at the same time. So then when Griffin Canning is available to pitch, you have now seen enough where you can make a better decision, not the best decision, and you're never going to be able to make the best decision. You could try, but I think this lays out for them to make a better decision on the back end of the bullpen, and then they can reassess about the future of the pitching staff. And I think that all relies on whether or not Pivetta could come back this year. If he cannot come back, I bet you they're on the phone with Lucas Giolito immediately. I really do. So that's the latest update on that particular situation. When we come back, we talked about it in the last hour. We kind of had some breaking news to get to, so we had to table it a little bit. But Padres getting a lot of love in the power rankings. How's everybody else doing in Major League Baseball? Kind of give you a recap of what's been going on the first couple of weeks of the season. When we return on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Number Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Bristol just proved one thing. The fastest car doesn't always win. In the Cup Series, Ty Gibbs got his first career win, but he only led the final 25 laps. Kyle Larson led 284 laps. Ryan Blaney led 190 laps, and neither of them won. Why? Strategy. Gibbs stayed out, kept track position, and held on in overtime to win by just 0.05 of a second. Then in the Xfinity race, same exact story. Connor Zilic stayed out. Larson dominated, still finished second. Even in the Truck Series, a $350,000 bonus was lost in one moment because of track position. So here's the question. Should races be decided by strategy like this, or should the fastest car always win? Motorsports weekly update for you here on the Braden Surprenant Show. First-time winners and a strategy takeover in Bristol. If there was one theme at Bristol this weekend, it was simple. Track position was everything, and strategy decided everything. Across all three NASCAR series, it didn't matter who had the fastest car. It mattered who made the right call at the right time.
Yeah, in the NASCAR Cup Series, we have a new winner. Ty Gibbs, who's the grandson of Joe Gibbs, the car owner, captured his first career Cup Series victory at Bristol, and it came down to one decision, not giving up track position. Gibbs stayed out late while others pitted and took the lead and held off Ryan Blaney in an overtime finish by just 55 thousandths of a second, the closest finish at Bristol in decades. What makes it more wild is that Gibbs only led the final 25 laps. Meanwhile, Kyle Larson led 284 of the 500, and Blaney led 190. But neither of them won. Instead, it was Gibbs capitalizing on timing, restarts, and execution. Also, an emotional win as Gibbs honored his late father, Coy, after the race, Coy Gibbs passed away. If I remember correctly, Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity Championship in 2024, took the pictures that night from the racetrack, and his father, Coy, was gone the next morning. So that was from an emotional high to an emotional low for him in that race. But the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series on Saturday night, same exact story.
Yeah, same exact story. And it seems to be the very common theme here. As you take a look at the in the series, the exact same story played out. Connor Zilic took the win by staying out on older tires late, thanks to a bold call from veteran crew chief Rodney Childers. He held off once again Kyle Larson, who dominated by leading 230 laps, but finished second. For Zilic, it's a big bounce back moment after struggles at the Cup level, and once again, the fastest car didn't win. The smartest strategy did.
In the Craftsman Truck Series, same thing. Christopher Bell returned to victory lane for the first time since 2017. Bell took control late and held off Chandler Smith for the win. The biggest storyline, though, is last year's champion, Corey Heim, lost a shot at $350,000 after getting spun while battling for the race lead in a major swing moment. And this all comes down to the way Bristol was ruined after it got repaved, because now NASCAR caught lightning in a bottle with Kansas with progressive banking. So it's, say, 13 degrees of banking down on the bottom, but it goes up to about 20 up at the top. And the more banking you have, the better your car handles, the easier it is to turn. So guys tend to run towards the higher banking. They tried that with Bristol, and then it became everyone runs the top lane and that's it. And now they're putting a traction substance that they put down for drag racing. So like when you see drag racers doing their burnouts and running back, they're getting a sticky traction substance on the tires that whole way. They did that to try to improve the bottom line at Bristol, try to create the racing down there. Well, what they did was they took away the top line because the bottom line now was such an advantage, and it became a one-lane racetrack, and they ruined it again. So that's why you're seeing it's become such a difficult track to pass at now, because of, if you want to make a pass, you have to go high. You don't have the same, you have the ability up high because of the higher banking, but you don't have the grip that you have down low. So that's just the way Bristol has been for the last couple of years now, and it's made it so painful to watch.
Coming up next, NASCAR Cup Series now heads to Kansas Speedway, where speed matters more than track position. A complete shift from Bristol. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, will strategy still matter, or will raw speed take back over? And the big debate after Bristol, should NASCAR races come down to strategy like this, or should the fastest car always win? Because this weekend proves something. You could dominate hundreds of laps and still lose. So what makes racing better? Unpredictable strategy or pure performance?
You need to have both. You need to have both, but you have to make the right call at the right time and hope it works, because Ty could have made that choice again and not executed and would have lost. So it's also
1:25 on a Tuesday here in San Diego. We're broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We Know How, brought to you by, We Know How. Our fan hotline is brought to you by SDCCU. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. We have Padres and Mariners coming up tonight, 6:40. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40 with Sam Levick. Gwen and Chris will be on after us. It is good, Frank, to get baseball back.
Das is good.
Get baseball back tonight. Why do these guys get days off? Come on. Can't play every day? Can't work every day? Come on.
No.
No. The answer is no. I don't want to do that either. All right, let's fire up the music again, and let's get to the MLB Power Rankings from what we have had to start the year.
Let's do that. All right. Let's start off with number 1 and number 2, shall we? Let's put them together. Who do you think they are, bud?
Dodgers and the Yankees.
On to number 3 now. Previously at number 4.
Oh, no.
The Atlanta Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr. hit his first home run on Friday, the second time in 3 seasons he's taken more than 52 at-bats to get a home run to start the season. The Bravos currently... Sit home. Let me do the smart thing and get the standings up here.
They lost yesterday.
Yeah, the Bravos did lose yesterday. They're currently 10-7, leading the National League East, and it'll be a 1-2 battle in the East today as the Bravos take on the Miami Marlins.
Just to go back, I mean, we're approximately 10% into the season. Time to overreact to the power rankings as we're already shaping the narratives, and some of them might actually be real. Dodgers still a standard as the number 1. To go back to them, I don't want to spend too much time on them, but 11 wins in 15 games, best in Major League Baseball. But the Padres only trail by 1.5 games going to last night. The Dodgers won yesterday against the Mets, so came 2 games. The thing you sent me yesterday was such Bush League by the Dodgers.
It was pathetic.
Do you want to explain to our audience what the Dodgers did yesterday?
So the Dodgers... This is
pregame, right?
Yes, this is pregame. There's been a lot of injury speculation around Edwin Diaz, who the Dodgers got from the Mets, because Diaz wanted a ring instead of the money. The Dodgers put up pregame a video of Edwin Diaz explaining to the Dodger clubhouse why he wanted to join the Dodgers over the Mets.
Why? Like, why?
What a pathetic franchise.
What an insecure franchise for one that has won back-to-back World Series.
Laura Albanese had the video up, that was her video.
It was hard to hear because it's like she's filming the video board at Dodger Stadium. I find it Bush League. It's funny you bring that up. I brought that up to one of my friends who happens to like the Dodgers. Although I think I'm flipping him over to the Padres bandwagon. And he was like, that's a bad look for the Dodgers. It's not a great look.
This is from Laura last night. The Dodgers are playing a video hyping the fact that they took Edwin Diaz away from the Mets. Dave Roberts in the video. There's a quote, there's a reason Edwin Diaz wanted to come here. He's chasing a ring.
That's so cringe by an organization that should be better than that. I used to respect the Dodgers and their organization because they used to have there used to be some type of class about them, and they were good at what they did, and they had this class to them. And it was kind of nice to go to that. It was like you could, without further complimenting a team that everybody that listens to our show hates. They're just not like that anymore.
No,
they just got rid of all of their class. I mean, they used to be like the class of baseball. You want to do things the way the Dodgers did things. They won with respect and class, and now they just want to troll everybody. It's like they're doing stuff that small market teams usually do.
No, and they've said there's a lot of serious concern around Edwin Diaz and his ability to pitch right now because his velo is down, and I don't believe he's a guy that's had Tommy John surgery before. They're talking about keeping him out of this series and possibly the next one because of it. So to rub it in the Mets' face with all of the injury concerns around Edwin Diaz right now, that's pretty bold of you to try to do.
It's classless. It's kind of gross. And as I told you, I cannot wait for the fall of Rome.
It's gonna be so
in baseball. I will be there to enjoy the fall of Rome. But anyway, Padres are keeping it close to the Dodgers so far early on, 10% of the season. And Yankees, they're the best team in the American League with losses. 6 of the 7 losses by 1 run. Still the best run differential in the American League. They're obviously their pitching staff's not that great with what they're doing. I mean, they were in a battle last night with the Halos.
Yes, they were.
A battle. So I don't want to spend too much time on them either. The Braves are the Braves a sleeping giant? Yes or no? I say no.
No, they
Are
still
they
have
really,
plenty of
like,
pitching concerns.
And they have injury concerns. I mean, you got Acuna Jr.'s first home run of the year. Matt Olson's starting to heat up. Health is the only question, but that's the only question every single year for that team. Number 4 on the list, Milwaukee.
Yes, number 4 on the list is the Milwaukee Brewers. They were number 3 in the prior power rankings. They currently sit at 8-7, third place in the NL Central, but that's a little deceiving as they're on a 5-game losing streak right now. They were 8-2 to start the year and are now on a 5-game loser.
Top 5 run differential. They're going to get some reinforcements soon. I mean, I know they're on a little bit of a downturn. I can't doubt them. You can't doubt them. They're always there. Them and the team that's 2 spots below them on the power rankings, they are always there. They're inevitable. The Milwaukee Brewers and the Cleveland Guardians are inevitable. Death, taxes, and Brewers and Guardians competing in baseball. The 4 guarantees of life.
Yeah, I think there were reports that Christian Yelich is going to be out for about a month and a half with a hamstring issue.
That hurts.
So, yeah, that's going to hurt them for a while. Number 5.
The story in baseball, number 5.
Number 5 on the list. Jumping up 14 spots from 19th up to 5th. Your San Diego Padres.
Yes. I mean, you got the elite pitching headline in Mason Miller. He's been historically dominant. We've talked about that for numerous times. He has 79.2% strikeout rate. 28 2/3 innings consecutive scoreless inning streak, which is 5 innings short of the franchise record and the longest active scoreless streak in baseball. They went from 19 to 5. I mean, they jumped into the conversation, the competitive contender conversation very quickly. The Padres are playing good baseball. They got to continue to play good baseball here in the next couple of weeks or so. But, they are the story right now in baseball with how good they have been. They have been the best team. They've been the hottest team in baseball right now. They have the second best record in all of baseball, now tied with the Pirates, who got a win yesterday. You would think Fangraphs would update their percentage to make the playoffs. They only got a 32% chance of making the playoffs. But I think that just has to do with the fact that they play in the same division as the Dodgers. Let's round up the rest of the top 10 here. You said the Guardians. I teased the Guardians. Yes. And they're doing that without Jose Ramirez helping.
Yeah, and they're tied. They're tied for the AL Central lead right now with the Minnesota Twins of all teams. The Pittsburgh Pirates are number 7. They were number 15. The Rangers are up from 14 to 8. The Phillies go from 8 to 9. And the New York Metropolitan. How are the Mets in the top 10? Oh, God.
Because Mets fans aren't putting it out there. They're not putting the deal in.
They're on a 6-game losing streak. What do you mean? It's not just Met fans. It's the Mets.
I got a question that we're going to answer when we come back. Which contender has the biggest fatal flaw right now? We'll answer that and finish up the show when we come back. Big news over the weekend. The San Diego Gulls are heading to the playoffs, and they're not just sneaking in. They're coming in hot. 7-3 victory over Bakersfield locks it in, and this team is playing their best hockey of the season right now. Nathan Gauthier is on fire with 6 goals in his last 4 games after returning from the NHL. Sasha is leading the way with over 50 points, and Justin Bailey leading the league in game-winning goals. But here's the real story. This team is deep. Young players like Roger McQueen are already making an impact, and the goaltending has stepped up in a very big way. So now the question isn't just can they make the playoffs. It's how far can they go? Because if this momentum carries over, this is not a team anyone wants to see in the first round. San Diego Gulls are officially back in the Calder Cup playoffs. Dominant 7-3 victory over the Bakersfield Condors, combined with the loss by the Tucson Roadrunners, and San Diego punches their ticket for the first time since the 2021-2022 season. And for head coach Matt McIlvain, it's his first playoff appearance with this group. And honestly, this has been building. Big congratulations to the Gulls.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Gulls are playing their best hockey of the season right now. 3 straight wins before a brief setback. They had a huge 5-3 win on the road against San Jose Barracuda to start the week. Then a statement 7-goal explosion after a loss to Bakersfield to clinch the playoffs. Even that loss, they were competitive and still producing offensively. So this team has found its identity at the perfect time as well, with guys like Sasha Pastujov and Nathan Gauthier leading the way.
Now, let's start with that engine. Sasha Pastujov, team leader with 55 points, 15 points in his last 10 games, consistent, clutch, and driving everything offensively. Nathan Gauthier, back from his NHL stint with the Anaheim Ducks, 6 goals in his last 4 games, playing his best hockey of the season at the right time. Justin Bailey, now at 24 goals, leads the AHL in game-winning goals with 9 and has absolutely owned Bakersfield this season. And Matthew Phillips hits the 50-point mark, quietly one of the most consistent producers on the roster.
Yeah, and looking back in net as well, Callie Klang, a 35-save performance against the San Jose Barracuda at the beginning of the week. Multiple wins in a row, including a shutout here recently. And Damian Clara picking up his first AHL, victory in the playoff clinching game, 36 saves, a huge moment for him. Defensively, this team is stepping up as well. Tristan Luneau continuing to produce offensively. Tyson Hines contributing at both ends of the ice. And team defense tightening up at the right time for this team to make them a serious pain in the neck going into the Calder Cup playoffs.
Yeah, so as of right now, it seems like every position has been clinched in the Calder Cup playoffs. I mean, the Pacific Division gets 7 teams, the Central gets 5, the North get 5, and the Atlantic gets 6. And San Diego gets that number 7 spot at 78 points. Finished a couple of points behind the Bakersfield Condors. There's still a handful of games left this season. San Diego will play Tucson on Wednesday. They'll go to Ontario on Friday. And then play I think they play Colorado on they might play Colorado on Saturday, but I'm not
Colorado
sure.
Eagles. Yeah.
So we'll but that's the remaining schedule for the San Diego Gulls moving forward. And then if the playoffs started today, San Diego still has an opportunity to potentially get themselves out of the number 7 spot, because if the season ended today, they would be the 7 playing the Colorado Eagles in the first round of the playoffs, which is a best of 3, a team that is, second ranked in the Pacific Division. Again, you play through your divisions before you get to the different division finals, conference finals, and then the Calder Cup finals. So if the season ended today, Ontario would be the number 1 seed in the Pacific Division. Gulls would get in as the 7, taking on the Colorado Eagles, the 2. You would have the Henderson Silver Knights as the 3, Bakersfield the 6, Coachella Valley would be the 4, and San Jose would be the 5. San Diego actually finishes with Coachella Valley at the end of the season, not Colorado. So still a little bit of time left to potentially move up the leaderboard. Again, 4 points behind the Bakersfield Condors. So San Diego still has an opportunity here, but they're making the playoffs, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, we've talked so much about this team over the course of these updates, how they've been up and down, inconsistent. They're still developing. They're still trying to find their way. They're trying to they're learning how to finish games. Now we're seeing them scoring, putting up big numbers. Goaltending has been incredible all season, and now they're playing more connected and physical hockey as well, and they're winning games. They're not just winning games, they're winning important games. That game against the Barracuda on, I believe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, was very, very crucial to them potentially making it into the playoffs and not. And they got a big win up in San Jose. So they are peaking at the right time right now, right as we're about to get into playoffs.
Well, as we mentioned before, so San Diego's got 3 games left. The Gulls have 3 games left in the season. They got Tucson, Ontario, and Coachella Valley. They chase Bakersfield and San Jose. I mean, they can get as high as like probably the 5. I mean, they're 4 points off of the pace, or 4 points behind San Jose and Bakersfield. Surprenant show, so broadcast live from the Bill Allen Studios. We know how. We got Padres baseball tonight, Padres and Mariners. We'll get you a little preview of that in just a little bit. We're just kind of recapping what's been happening in the first couple of weeks of the Major League Baseball season. Let's get back to the we'll go to the bottom half of the top 10 of the latest power rankings from MLB.com, Frank, and just kind of talk about some of these teams real quick. Guardians came in at number 6, correct?
Yes.
Fire out the music. Let's keep the music on. It's great.
Oh, okay.
We haven't done it in like 3 weeks or a month, so we might as well just like overuse it today. Cleveland Guardians, again, the inevitable. We briefly talked about them, but the fact that they're able to do this, hitting 180, that fact that they're able to do this with Jose Ramirez only hitting $180 and the team is still rolling. I mean, this is an interesting team. And again, we mentioned before, like they're chasing the Twins right now, or really tied to the Twins. They're both 10-7 with the Twins. I think the Twins are going to fall back down to earth, but with the Tigers off to a slow start to the season, and that's only going to be a matter of time, Cleveland's set themselves up perfectly for the beginning part to be a contender again in the AL Central.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, they're the Milwaukee Brewers of the of the American League.
Yes.
They do the same thing. They spend no money and yet always seem to win the division every single year.
Speaking of somebody that doesn't really do that at the end of the year, but a team that constantly is the early season darling, the Pittsburgh Pirates coming at number 7 on the list. First place, fun team, franchise history, never won the National League Central. This seems to be like an enjoy it while it lasts more than a is this real situation. But they got good starting pitching. Enjoy this while it lasts, Frank, or is this real?
Enjoy it while it lasts, pal.
I think enjoy it while it lasts.
It ain't lasting too long.
I just don't think they have the bats to overcome a lot of these things that they have. The Padres went in there, took 2 out of 3 pretty easily. And they had a good, if it wasn't for a bullpen blow up by Adrian Morejon, I mean, they could have swept the Pirates. I mean, they got a home run. Xander Bogaerts hit a home run off Paul Skeens. It was a 2-1 game late in the innings, and you gave yourself an opportunity to win on a Paul Skeens start day. So I think it's an early season darling again for the Pirates. I just don't think they hold up by the end of the season, despite what FanGraphs says, giving them a higher percentage chance of playoffs than the Padres. Phillies, very top heavy, Frank.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they've been off to as slow a start as they are. I mean, they're currently sitting at 8-8. Just won yesterday. They're 10 games in the red in run differential. They're playing the Cubs now. I'm very surprised, especially since they've had most of their games at home. They've had 10 of their first 16 games at home. So that one is really, really surprising to me that the Phillies aren't not necessarily running away with the division, but at the top of it.
Their offense is Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no lineup depth. Their pitching is a massive problem. And this is a team that might be way easier to pitch to than we thought. I mean, they're attacking the offense. A lot of teams are. Yeah, are the Phillies going to be a team that doesn't make the playoffs? I know it's early. This is like the overreactions you get to the power rankings, but they're off to a more uncharacteristic start. Age might be hurting the Phillies a little bit, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you knew this was going to happen too. And they signed Adolis Garcia, who's done next to nothing. I mean, that was why they paid Nick Castellanos $20 million to go away. They're getting old. They have a lot of money tied up, and it's not good right now in Philadelphia. It's not sunny in Philadelphia right now.
So, speaking of not being sunny, to you at least, the New York Mets coming in at number 10. You said during the break that they don't deserve to be in the top 10.
No, they're on a 6-game losing streak. They look absolutely lifeless. No, they don't deserve to be in the top 10 right now.
Is this rock bottom again?
No, it's not
this
rock
early
bottom.
In the season,
No,
like it was a couple years ago.
bottom.
They ended up making the playoffs. Soto dependency is real, yes or no?
It would look like it right now, especially with how many uncharacteristic mistakes, mental mistakes, we're seeing out of Francisco Lindor right now.
Oh, he has had so many brain farts.
He is
so many.
He's off to a slow offensive start, which for him, it's like Manny Machado. He does not hit well in April. But the mental mistakes, not knowing how many outs there are, not turning a double play when he needed to, lazy plays. Lindor is having a really uncharacteristic start to his season, especially defensively. It's not good.
Who would you? How many runs have the Mets scored since Soto's been injured?
Oh God, it's got to be in the single digits. It's probably around
27 runs in 8 games.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems like a lot.
Based on what you've watched.
Yeah.
All right. So out of the Diamondbacks, Blue Jays, and Cubs, which one of those teams is better than which one of those teams you put in over the Mets?
I'd put
Arizona. The next 3 on the list.
I would put Arizona in. Honestly, I mean, especially they just took 2 out of 3 from the Mets. And that was just as Soto was getting hurt. So I would say I would put Arizona ahead of them.
Arizona,
at the very least.
Arizona got 8 home runs in their first 7 games of the season. They now have 1 home run in the last 9. Offense has kind of disappeared. Not too much to defeat the Mets. Blue Jays have had injury nightmares, massive injured list, just trying to survive right now. The early part of the season
right now,
but this could spiral fast if the depth isn't real. And then the Cubs, they're a situational hitting disaster. You know, the Cubs are on a 1 for 23 runners in scoring position stretch. You talk about the Padres, the runners in scoring position every year. I mean, the Cubs 1 for 23 is rough.
2 games under 500, 3 games out in last place.
Multiple injuries to the starting rotation.
But +4 on run differential.
Will be fine, or is this who they are?
I think they'll be all right.
I think they'll be okay, too. Which contender has the biggest fatal flaw right now? Phillies, Astros, or Mets? Who's the most fake contender? I would go with the Astros. I know they're beat up right now, but they have no pitching.
Wait, of who?
Phillies, Astros, Mets. Which contender has the biggest fatal flaw?
The Astros right now, their injury.
For sure.
They have a lot of injury concerns. Amaya just went to the IL. So, I mean, and he's off to a very, very bad start when he has been pitching. So I would say, yes, the Astros would be the biggest concern.
Phillies, I think, are a close second. They have no depth. And they're showing that they have no depth right now. The Mets, I'm not as concerned about the Juan Soto dependency. I think they'll figure it out.
The Mets are the Mets.
The Mets are the Mets. What's Mr. Met have to say about the matter?
I don't care.
Who's the most fake contender out of that group?
I said the Astros.
No, you said which contender is the biggest fatal flaw?
Oh, the biggest pretender, I think, also is the Astros.
The Astros might be in a world of hurt right now.
If they are not, you got to get out of that late 2010s Astros. They are not that team anymore. They are not
8.
That good.
They've lost 8 straight. They're 1-9 in the last 10. You know that the division is decent, or the division is at least not crazy because the Mariners haven't been playing that well.
Pena
but
was the other guy on the that they put on the IL.
Yeah, they're in trouble. I know. I have a group text with some of my college buddies, and one of them's an Astros fan, and he is just not great.
No, they're not.
He started freaking out
anymore.
He started freaking out 2 games into this 8-game losing streak.
Oh, for goodness sake!
I had to remind him, can you stop getting all the teams hot before the Padres play them, please? They got the Rockies this week. How do we think that's going to go?
Didn't go good last time.
No, but this time it's in Houston. Maybe that makes a difference.
Probably.
Michael Lorenzen is pitching tonight against Colton Gordon in Houston.
Ooh.
Exactly. Colton Gordon. He's a lefty.
That's cool. I now know he exists.
You don't play fantasy baseball?
No.
Couldn't tell me about Colton Gordon?
Nope.
Colton Gordon last year for the Astros was 6-4, the 5.34 ERA, started 14 games, appeared in 20, 86 innings.
give it the old, his first name's Colton, his last name's Gordon, and that's about all I know about him.
They must have pulled him off of a NASCAR track.
Pretty sure not related.
I don't know. Should he be on the what does the name Colton Gordon fit more? The Detroit Tigers or a NASCAR driver? I go with NASCAR driver. It doesn't have the same kind of alliteration as everybody else in the Tigers. Pretty good games tonight, though, throughout Major League Baseball. We got a full slate of games tonight throughout the big leagues. Padres will start their 3-game series against the Mariners. They got to be able to find a way to get Brian Wu out of the game. Brian Wu has dominated this Padres team. Dominated. And he's also had a pretty good start to the year. He is 0-1, but he has a 1.50 ERA. Be able to attack Brian Wu early in this game. I like Michael King tonight. I really do. I think Michael King has gotten better, I think, every single start this season. But to me, I think this is a tough time for, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. It's unfortunate that the bats been awakened. The Seattle Mariner bats have been awakened by the Houston Astros lack of pitching, but maybe it's just the benefit of going against really bad pitching. When we talked with Aaron Goldsmith earlier today, the play-by-play man of the Seattle Mariners, I asked what the big turnaround was for the offense, and do you remember his answer?
Opposing pitching.
He said Astros pitching. So the Astros pitching might be the big reason why the Seattle Mariners have had the success. Because aside from that, the Mariners offense had not been very good this season. And it was a big reason why they started in the hole as much as they have. If you look at their numbers, and I'm going to try to pull them up real quick before we end the show. If you look up their numbers, so their game logs for baseball in 2026, they had a lot of guys off to slow starts. But just to take a look at the beginning part of the year, they were, as a team, in their first however many games it was, first 13 games of the year, they're hitting 184 on the season with a 280 on base percentage and a 581 OPS. That was the Padres in their first 7 games. That's the Mariners in their first 13 games. And then over the weekend against the Astros, they accumulated so many. They almost had double-digit hits, and everyone. They had 9 hits, 7 hits, 8 hits, 13 hits. They scored 9 runs, 8 runs, 6 runs, 6 runs. And before that, it was just been tough sledding for the Mariners offense. But it's amazing what happens when you play the Astros. Here's what you need to know. The Mariners' OPS as a team was 581 going into the Astros series. It went up to 657 after the Astros series. In the Astros series, of their 4-game win streak, which, by the way, snapped a 5-game losing streak and snapped losing 7 out of 8 on the season. Against the Astros, the Mariners hit 289 with an 899 OPS, 5 home runs, 27 RBIs. They had a triple, 7 doubles. They raked. And their batting average on balls in play was 330. That's drastically different than the 133 BABIP that they had. Maybe the Astros pitching is just that bad.
I think.
We'll see what the Padres do against Brian Wu, who has been electric against San Diego. For more of a preview, stay tuned. Gwen and Chris coming up next. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Talk to you guys tomorrow on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's Urban Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan.